archive conversation that we should be having.
True.
What a novel concept is we save content for when we're actually live. I know it's surprising.
Oh, well, let me take the slide off the screen. I didn't want to surprise everyone with this hideousness.
They all just got that sprung on them.
No, I've learned from that. I've started like full topics after Drinker like went off stream and open bar, and it's like, oh shit, should have just kept that. Oh man, it happens.
Well, greetings everybody. We are back for the second week in a row, if you can believe it. We did make it. But yeah, we're going to discuss some things today. And as everyone knows, it's going to be The Crow. I want to say hi to all of our guests. We got Greg Owen for his first appearance on BSUP. Hello, sir.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to having you, man. Echo Chamberlain returns to BSUP as well. He steps out of his own echo chamber to come into ours.
Yeah, it's good to see you. I saw Greg and I didn't know where I was.
Yeah, like I said, there's a bit of incestuousness going on with all the streams here. But
we should just stop giving them different names and just have one stream and just call it YouTube stream. It's just all of us interchangeably.
Yeah, the
Friday night,
the woke bros. That's what it should be called. And Film Comics Explained for his first appearance on BSUP as well. Hello, sir.
Hello. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks for coming on, man. Jedi Brooks returns as well. Hello, sir.
Hello. How you guys doing?
Oh, yeah. Good, because we're going to talk about a movie I did not like. So.
Oh, my God. Yeah, we'll get into it.
And, of course, our little Vexling is here, too. But I think she's still BRBing. Are you? Okay.
I'm here.
She has returned.
All right. She has returned. Yeah, we're going to kind of dive into this. I made my first short because of this movie. And it was one of those goofy, I was walking out of the theater and I liked the original Crow. So the fact that it wasn't very good kind of upset me. I just want to pull it up. Just got out of the theater seeing The Crow. I would advise anyone who likes the original to not see this movie. I would also advise anyone who just likes movies or good things or doesn't like having a bad time to not go see this movie. I'll be dropping a full review on the main Movie Cynic channel, but wow.
Yeah.
That's
pretty accurate.
Is that just what shorts are? Because that's the only type I've ever seen. Is shorts just the thing people do when they're bored in their cars?
That's what I assumed, that because as soon as I stepped out of the theater, I felt compelled to make one. Like, this is where it starts.
Oh.
I even had the sunglasses
That was
on.
like after that's like after the pitch meeting ranty awards where he does all the different people in cars who do their rants. I'm surprised he didn't end with thanks, Bernie Sanders.
I think the car
coffee with you. That's what you were missing.
I think the car rant videos, they only work when you're someone who's like personally invested in the franchise, like someone who's like this, like an adaptation like this, because it just means that you immediately have to get your thoughts out, and like if it's real, people will appreciate it. They're only cringe when like you don't even know what the hell you're talking about.
I had a personal connection with The Crow because my comic book was signed by Caliber Comics, and Caliber Comics released The Crow in the 80s. That's where it got its start. Caliber at one point was like the third biggest publisher behind DC and Marvel before Image Comics kind of literally put them into bankruptcy.
Wow.
But either way, like I always had a special connection. And when I was a kid and I saw the original movie, I loved it. It was one of those, it fit my 90s emo aesthetic that bled into the 2000s. So I was like super disappointed with this thing, beyond it just being a terrible movie. I saw some people say that it was so bad it was good. I don't think so.
No,
this was terrible film.
No, it didn't cross that territory.
Yeah,
Not at
Morbius
all.
is so bad it's good.
Right.
This is not.
Madam Web.
This doesn't
Madam
quite
Web.
attain the level of Morbius or indeed Madam Web, which says a lot about this movie. I get maybe that might be a nice-ish place to start. Actually, it's like how familiar are people with, I suppose, first the comics and second the 90s film. I gather there are like 5 other films as well, which I only found out about when I googled it. Before
None of them are good.
I'm assuming that was the case, yeah. But like, is everyone here a big fan of old Crow, OG Crow?
Yes.
Fire it up.
Fire it up.
No, I probably one of the only people who hadn't seen it here. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Really?
Sure.
Yes, yes.
You might do
Maybe
yourself
at
a
some point
favor
when I
and
was
see it.
young, like, but it's not. If I did, I don't remember it at all. I remember like the aesthetic, and but that's about it.
Dang.
And Cynic messaged me like early today to see this, so I might have had the most unique experience because the copy that I had ended up being in Spanish, and I didn't check until it was too late. And I'm like, fuck, I have to commit at this point, or I'm not gonna have any context. So I watched that motherfucker in Spanish, had no idea other than "sí" and "gracias," and I basically had to piece it together through like body language. I'm like, okay, this guy's going after him. Okay, I kind of get this. So you're gonna have to fill in some things, but overall, I got it. And I'm like, yeah, this is shit. And I don't
To be
think it'd be
fair,
even better.
actually,
if it was
like
in
now you
English.
mention it, it's odd that you didn't just find a copy that was in English because like it's not that hard to
It's
do.
not that
But
hard.
now you mention it, it's probably actually not that much less of an experience because you don't need the dialogue in this movie
Yeah,
at all.
that's what I'm like, you know
it's
what? I
just
can do
there to be
this.
like, oh my god, I'm so edgy.
I think
And
there's
that's
like 2 or 3
basically, like, all
scenes
of it.
where I was like maybe 2 or 3 scenes where I was missing out. I'm like, I kind of want to know what they have to say, but the rest you can kind of just figure it out. It was so fucking boring and so worthless, and just everything about it was just lazy, and you know exactly what was gonna happen. Yeah,
I was texting Vex while I was watching the movie. You know, I get a lot of pushback about that. I don't know if you guys know this, but not a lot of people go to the fucking theater at all. So when
Yeah.
like when I'm texting people, it's because no one is in the theater but me. But yeah, I was texting Vex of just while I was like giving her the play-by-play. Just complaining. I swear to God, my notes were like the typical length of one of my videos. That's how much
I
was
warned you,
complaining
bro.
about.
I said you were gonna hate it.
Yeah.
Just don't watch it.
Generally speaking, I don't hate the movies that I'm crapping on. They're just bad movies, but I was actually offended by this one. It's a just because I like the original so much, but I think my biggest problem with it is out of all of them is that he isn't even the Crow until the last 15 minutes of the film.
oh man,
I wouldn't even call whatever he was the Crow.
I
It
mean,
was
that's
just kind of-
this right here. That's
yeah,
him.
they just kind of like, oh, we need him to have some sort of transformative arc so that the ending of a movie can just, I guess, happen or something. And then he
Yeah.
just kind of sloppily kills people, and then all of that was showed in the trailers anyways, so it's not like you got anything that was really exciting at the end of the film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he can't die anyway, so there's no tension behind any of the fight scenes. The entire time, I'm just waiting from the end.
Well,
Just so weird.
You haven't read the comic either, have you, Jedi?
No, I had no context. I didn't even know what they were saying. I had no context, and I couldn't even understand their language. So I was more confused than anybody else. Like, what is just trying to piece it together in my own head in terms of like trying to figure out rules. And all I know is that like that relationship, the whole half an hour of them like licking each other's face to be like, he likes her, right? He really, really likes her. Do you guys get it? He really likes her, and then boop, you know she's gonna get killed.
So
It's,
like
yeah, so I didn't know anything.
one of the things about the source material is that it doesn't necessarily need to establish stakes because it's just kind of it's a manifestation of someone's just like extreme agony and pain and loss. So the entire thing that Eric Draven is trying to get over or confront is just the loss of losing the one woman that really ever gave him purpose.
Right.
So they've taken that entire element out of this film and they've introduced a villain who's not even a well-hashed villain in any sense and tried to establish stakes with that. But because they don't explore him or they don't have him and Eric have any actual conflict before the ending of the film, there's nothing that actually happens. Like you're literally just kind of watching content. There's no purpose to it.
There's nothing connecting the two characters at all other than the the love of his moment. Because what is this, like 3 fucking days? Like there's no real context of how long it takes.
I felt more for John Wick's dog, and like when you
Yes!
compare to these things, it's like seriously, the dog moment way more than this chick. I was so bored of her just immediately.
It's so true. The best of these revenge tales, because this is not that. I would say what's funny is when I saw the trailer, I was like, oh, they're John Wicking the Crow. I guess that makes sense because the Crow is a revenge movie. I see how they did that. And by the end of the original Crow, because they put her on a pedestal and kind of make her more of an angelic figure, you can. The best of these movies, you can kind of project yourself onto the protagonist because, you know, everyone's loved and everyone's lost, and you can put yourself in their shoes. With this, you're like, why would I want to save this chick? She sucks. She's
There's just
trash.
nothing here. I don't, and there's so many loose ends in terms of like, how did he know how to escape so quickly, so smoothly? And if he could, why didn't he do that in the first place?
Why didn't
Like,
he just do it? He was just,
yeah.
Thank God she came across him at just the right time.
All
This
of it-
guy who knows how to escape the place she's trapped in. Okay.
Painfully convenient. And it's just one of those things where I'm like, okay, they're going to escape now. He's going to have a plan. But I thought there was at least going to be something of some kind. And they basically slapped those two together, which is really annoying. Like, if this is the core part of your movie, you need to have a little bit more patience for this.
The lead actress is just atrocious.
Insufferable.
She is.
Insufferable.
She's
I was
a
happy
rapper,
when
right?
he got suffocated.
Is she a rapper?
Yeah. How do you is it FKA Twigs or is it right?
Yes.
That's right. Yeah.
Am I pronouncing it right?
You
Yeah,
are,
you
yeah.
are.
You know, I saw her do a promo with Bill Skarsgård for this movie where they're doing ASMR, and she was just talking the same she talks in everything.
Mm-hmm.
She talks like this.
They have no real like chemistry in this film. So Bill Skarsgård, his portrayal of like Eric Draven has no emotional depth. He's very one-dimensional. He's emo throughout the entire film. His motto is "Cry now, cry later," and that doesn't change.
Yeah.
And FKA Twigs is just horrible as Shelley. As I said, they don't have any chemistry. They don't foster a connection with us, and their relationship felt really forced and superficial. Their life story doesn't really ignite out of organic chemistry, but simply because the plot required it, underscored by their like affinity for drugs and tattoos.
I felt like I was watching a half-hour-long music video. That's what the aesthetic.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the perfect description, man.
Yeah.
And like, constant fucking isn't chemistry. Like, someone needs to tell these people that. And it just was insufferable after a while.
It's the part of the music video where we're on the streets and in amongst it, and then it's the part of the music video where it's our Great Gatsby showing off our conspicuous consumption and wealth in this cool apartment, and then it's the music video part where they're like in an alleyway. And it's just that's what the aesthetic was.
There were two things that I
Lame.
didn't really understand. Is just like the choice to make them not just drug addicts but just generally bad people.
Yeah.
I'm not really understanding that choice, because how am I supposed to empathize or kind of like fall in love with these characters if they're just shitty people? It's not endearing whatsoever. Whereas you look like at other movies like The Notebook or something, there's something that you can kind of latch onto there that makes you want to like embrace the fantasy or something like that. So I didn't understand that. And there was also like 1994 Crow did a really good job of setting out the environment, so it reflected how evil things really were, and it kind of helped you justify why Eric was doing what he was doing in another sense. And I'm confused at what they were trying to do here. So like Eric and Shelley seem to be at some sort of government facilitated like Orwellian like rehab facility. But then as soon as they escape, then it's just like there's no tension, there's no stakes, there's nothing evil or unique about the city that they're in. It's just a geriatric, European city with some modern touches kind of on it. So I was really disappointed. Like, the film had some potential to at least redeem itself there, but it doesn't. God, this just fucking sucks. Like, on every front. Like,
it really does.
If you have two broken people, with shattered lives who wend their way towards each other and can find empathy and solace with one another, that's interesting. But these are just two boring assholes popping pills and drinking champagne. I didn't care. Why do I care?
This movie missed the whole. Go on, Jedi.
Oh, okay. I was just gonna say real quick. You can make a good writer can make you like enjoy terrible characters. Like Devil's Rejects is one of the best examples of that. The family is awful, but by the end, you're almost like on board with them. Like, it's just you can do it. This movie just didn't have any of that. Like, they didn't take the time to really develop the relationship, and I could see this just through the dynamic at the very beginning. Like, him just. He's talking about her tattoo. There wasn't really anything for them to connect on, and then suddenly they're madly in love. He's willing to like run off with her. It just felt so weak and like half baked.
You need characters if you're going to have a relationship between characters. This film doesn't have either of those things. It's like,
that's caricatures
to each other. Oh, what are you doing here? I'm in rehab. So am I. I like cashews. So do I. I
Exactly.
like music. So do I.
They just
Now I'm
shoved
going
them
to sacrifice
together.
my immortal soul for you. It's like, what? I don't even know who the movie is
I like
aimed at
sex.
either,
I
because
also like sex.
I also like sex. And all the rest of it.
Well,
But,
I haven't
it's such a weird
dated in
thing to
20
base
years.
your
Is that what
movie
it's
on.
like now?
I think this film fundamentally misunderstands the characters of Eric and Shelley. Because in the original film and in the graphic novel, both of them are like beacons of light within a really dark and corrupt city. And their love represented like a rare gloom of goodness that was tragically and randomly extinguished. And in stark contrast with this adaptation, it seems to blur the lines between the protagonists and the seedy underworld that they inhabit. And for me, like Eric and Shelley felt as gritty and disgusting as the antagonists and night dwellers of the original film.
Just to add on to that, I don't even think they misunderstand Eric and Shelley, because I think you can reimagine these characters and still at its core have love and loss. I just don't think anyone that worked on this film understands what love is. Like it's just a relationship is dependent on vibes. Like we're together forever. Vibes.
Vibes.
You
I don't
know?
even think anyone making this film even knew what making a film is. It really felt like a film.
Well, they weren't really in love, were they? They were just two broken people that were at their lowest point and just turned to the first person that smiled at them. Their love never felt really genuine.
Eric needed a sugar mama. Like she gives him a place to live, clothes to wear, drugs to use, money to spend. Like he bagged himself like a heavy quotation use baddie.
She was such a bad influence on him. Not only did she bring him back into the world of drugs and debauchery, but she's got people after her that are trying to kill her. And at no point does she make an effort to tell him.
Yeah.
She's a terrible person, and she's the main character.
Exactly. And she's the one that gets resurrected at the end.
And we're supposed to feel bad for this chick the entire time. We're supposed to be on board with his mission to like get her back. I'm just like, I don't care. Like, just what else?
That's what I hated about this too, is the change from he is just seeking revenge in the original film, period. He's going to avenge the love of his life, and that's going to be the end, and he's going to be reunited with her in the end, in the afterlife. In this, it's decided within the last 20 minutes that, oh, I'm actually going to try and just bring her back to life. And that changes everything. It's because at that point, you're bringing back what we have just discussed, a terrible person. For what? No one wants her back.
Right.
Besides her mom, of course.
Can I point out one? Wait, how offensive am I allowed to be here?
Don't get us demonetized.
Okay. I just want to say this film did one really based thing. Okay. Eric goes to hell, right? Like that's what the whole, crow interactions are. And his spiritual guide is quite literally Osama bin Laden.
What?
Yes. So it's just like, Islam is kind of, a joke in that sense. That's all. That's all.
Well, didn't he go to limbo? I thought it was like a limbo train station.
That's what I was thinking too. It must be some type of like interdimension hell gateway. Like, what is this slot? Because
I thought it was hell because like Eric...
limbo or
hell is where Rogue goes to at the end. So at the very end, Rogue gets pulled into hell, which is below limbo.
Gotcha.
So if you had the two characters, sorry, Greg, but if you had the two characters at the beginning and they're actually going through withdrawal symptoms to some extent, and there's like a little narrative there of finding catharsis in each other, and then there's the big inciting incident with the asphyxiation in the bags or whatever, that could have been something. Like 20 seconds of Requiem for a Dream could have substituted for half an hour of what I was watching. And I can't stare at the slide anymore because of the vague.
Yeah, I was going to ask. Like,
all right.
Hypnotizing me. Oh, geez. And like you were saying, you need characters in order to do that, and it's just this. The way they slap these two together is just a great example of like, strap yourself in. This movie's going to be shit. Like, such an important part of it, and they can't even take the time.
What did you guys think of that opening scene with the horse? Because it reminded me of Never Ending Story for some reason, and I also liked that shot, like between like scene to scene with that horse. amount of barbed wire on it came and went as well.
Yeah,
which
it
I
did.
thought was a really, really nice continuity thing.
Right off the
Really, I
bat.
didn't even notice
Well-
that. My biggest thing is why the fuck would you even touch it? We live on a farm, like you don't know what barbed wire is. Like it's just
Yeah, dude.
immediately
That horse is
Grab
just
some
dumb.
pliers. Yeah.
like
I think in
instantly-
an abstract sense, I felt like in the cinema that I was sinking into the swamps of sadness, but that's about the only connection.
That's what it wanted you to do, because they slapped that god awful line over the top of it, like, oh, when you've seen the ones you love die, you get mad, or whatever it was. But like more goth than that, obviously. And they stick that over a dying horse, and I'm thinking, like that's, if you'd swapped the dying horse for a dying girlfriend at the beginning, you would have saved yourself the trouble of trying to write a romance plot that they are manifestly incapable of writing. They would have established his basic character from the beginning, and then we could actually get into the interesting stuff, like what he's doing to try and get her back, rather than wasting like 2/3 of the film trying to make us believe that they've fallen in love at first sight. I don't really, it was probably because I walked out of the room at some point after the horse thing, so I might have missed the connection, but like, it just seemed like such a random, pointlessly, like, this is there because we want to establish mood as opposed to actually accomplish anything story-wise or character-wise, come to that.
Well, I think they needed some sort of introduction to Eric, because the first 10-15 minutes of the film is actually about Shelley and all the stuff that she's going through. And they realized that and decided to insert that. And I think in the graphic novel, the 1989 book by James O'Barr, there's just a fleeting shot of Eric on a bus riding through a town, and he sees a horse in barbed wire. But that's all it is. Like, he's not connected to it. It's not his horse or anything like that.
They didn't even have to use the horse, because in the last act of the film, they flash back to that horse, but then we also get a flash of, I don't know if it was a sick or a dying or a drug addicted mother as well. So you could have established it with the dying mother instead of using a horse, which would have made more sense for, because they even tried to introduce the whole mother element with Shelley and her mom later on, which was laughable. Oh, I'm sorry I wasn't there for you, but also let me lead everyone to where you are,
right where
so
you
they
are.
can kill you.
It's worse than that, because it's implied that her mother sold her soul to Rogue in order to become famous and successful. And she's like, I think she has a line where she says, "It should have been me." And it's like, well, no shit. Like, you're the reason your daughter's dead. And one thing that I found odd is in the original film and to some extent the graphic novel, Eric isn't just an avenger. He's not just out for vengeance. He's also healing his community. I think with Sarah's mother, she's a drug addict, prostitute, and he heals her of her addiction, and he makes her into a better mother. And I thought they were going to do that with his own mother and all the other characters, but he kills everybody. I think Marion, Rogue's henchman, at the end, she basically explains that she'd been manipulated. She had no sort of agency. And I thought, oh, this is a good moment for him not to kill her and to let her go and allow her to, transform her life. But he kills her. Like, Eric's a dick.
Eric is a dick.
Everyone's a dick in this movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked the subplot where she said, if you find out about my past, you'll no longer love me. And then when he finds out, it's actually it's a cell phone, and it's a video of that guy whispering in her ear, manipulating her. And he's aware that this guy does this. He's aware that the guy manipulates people by whispering in them, and then they do terrible things. So he watches her get manipulated by the guy. She zombie walks over and stabs someone, and then the guy comforts her. And Eric's like, I can't believe this. I cannot believe it. Guys, I don't think I can love her anymore. And then
is that what that was?
5 seconds later, he goes, yes, I can. And he turns into a mass murderer himself.
Oh my
I
god.
love that. I love that was supposed to be like a big moment for the movie, and all I could think of was like every single poster, every single Twitter post, trailer I saw. It was like, true love never dies. It's like, well, true love does die if you find out your girlfriend committed murder. Apparently, it was such a weird way to try and get Eric over the hump. I didn't understand that decision either, because you've undone the entire first 2/3 of the film you've tried to lay out for us.
Right, and he's already tried to kill people previously in the film. So, like, her being a murderer can't really send him over the edge, I wouldn't think, at that point anyway. Sorry.
Like, what was the edge? Because, like, this is, again, how little attention I was paying to this movie, because it just fucking no. But Was that the bit immediately before he goes down to the train station in Limbo with the crows, and then he's told like he lost his powers or something because he
Yes.
doubted her?
Yes.
And then you get the line about
Oh my god.
hate isn't the opposite of love, doubt is.
Yeah. Everything you guys are filling in for me is just shit, man.
What?
Oh my goodness.
It's what do you mean? It's so good.
Well, I have a better line for you, Jedi. There's a moment when Shelley's still alive where she tells Eric, "If I'm ever hard to love, love me harder."
Oh my
God, no
God.
accountability at all.
Is that the cringe I was missing during that half an
Right.
hour of them just like the stupid music
God.
video? Like a sex scene or a first kiss, those things could be like really powerful if you build up to that. But like their idea was to just show them constantly making out. They can't stop fucking for 5 seconds, long enough for this guy to finish his tattoo. Like it was just like so lame, man. I don't know why they had to force that.
This film doesn't depict love; it depicts lust. Go on. Echo.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's just for the first
That's a good
half
way to
hour
put it.
or 40 minutes, I found myself rooting for the antagonist on no stronger ground or foundation than the fact that they're actually trying to achieve or do something. So I found myself rooting for them for that reason. On my last day of high school, the headmaster, the principal, said, that's it, that's it. And we were allowed out, and we all streamed out into the sunshine at 11 in the morning because the assembly had finished and the prize giving had finished. And I felt rich with potential and happiness because the whole day was before me. And that was evoked to me when I literally just walked out of the cinema in this film after 40 minutes because I couldn't be bothered watching it anymore. And I came out into the sunshine and thought, yes, I have so much more of the day left to enjoy. So it wasn't leaving out in a huff. I was leaving out with a liberating rush of freedom and empowerment. So that was my experience of watching the film.
Pretty much.
I'm glad that you brought up the high school thing, because that was one of my abiding questions about this, which is the question of who is this actually aimed at, even, I should say. Because like it's so sub-adolescent even in the way it treats its principal subject matter, which is supposed to be, like love, loyalty, things you will sacrifice, therefore. But like, it plays it so childishly that for an M-rated movie, the audience who is allowed to go and see it can't possibly invest in it. Because it's the kind of thing a 13-year-old goth might think. Or if they're like veering on that weird precipice, which only they really understand between goth and emo. But like everything to them is the first and only time it's happened. So of course you can sacrifice your eternal soul for the person you've just met because you're 13 and you think you're edgy and you think that that's soulful and meaningful. When of course anyone who's older than that knows that it isn't. But like anyone who's allowed to go and see the movie has to be over 18. Probably going to be even older than that, given that the source material is so old and it hasn't really been popular in a film form since the 90s anyway. And anyone who's an adult will go and say that and say, well, that's just absolutely childishly unbelievable. And then on top of that, you've got so much overindulgence in gore and sex and drugs and all the rest of it that it's kind of counting against itself. The people who it's targeted at can't see it, and the people who will see it won't like it. What's it supposed to achieve?
Well, this is what I mean by the movie doesn't understand love and loss, and this is also just a thing that I've noticed in the last several years is whenever a film, like a mainstream film especially, tries to do the romance angle with something, it kind of just boils down to these very superficial things to just establish, oh, these characters are in a relationship and that's really all you need to know. It doesn't go the extra mile to show you what true love is, how much companionship can influence another person or change your life, kind of deal. And then you kind of see that bleed into actual society now with the way that people don't meet each other organically anymore. It's like, oh, I see you on an app and I want to fuck you. That's how you get together. And I don't know if it's the same for you guys, but almost everybody I know in real life met through something like Bumble or Tinder. They just started fucking and then they went into a relationship. So I feel like this is just like it's a really weird, unfortunate reflection of what's going on. And now creatively in Hollywood, we're kind of seeing all of these quote unquote romance films that don't understand why the genre was so appealing in the first place.
Yeah, they expect you to fill it in yourself, like all the substance, all the nuance. And
Yeah,
it's
like
frustrating because it's how satisfying these things can be.
right, like a lot of even just like like modern romance novels for women, it does the same thing. It's just like, "Oh, I want to fuck you. Oh, I fucked you enough and you gave me some good dick. Now I'm in love with you." It just goes from that instead of why is there such an attraction between these two people? Why are they meant for each other? Kind of deal.
That's why stories
Killed
where
my enemies.
that's why stories where they start off hating each other is always much more interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They rushed. If anyone watched Game of Thrones, they rushed most of their relationship in terms of Daenerys and Jon Snow meeting, but their first engagement was fantastic. They completely
Mhm.
clashed and philosophical differences and could never understand each other's perspectives. And watching them go from that to in a relationship is always going to be much more enjoyable than just like boom slapping them together. Oh, I like your
Mhm.
tattoo. Let's fuck. It's just
Yeah.
yeah.
No,
like-
it would have been way more compelling if Han Solo and Leia had just met up immediately and
Yeah.
started, popping some pills and just fucking.
Exactly.
It would have been way more
Exactly.
compelling.
Oh god, the disdain that Han had for her, and it makes it so much more satisfying when you see that slowly melt over time. It's just that's how
So
relationships work.
it seemed like this film swapped a kind of passive, banal nihilism and then pivoted halfway through to a gratuitous nihilism. So that sounds like a good time.
Indeed.
Yeah, it tries so hard to pretend that's not what it's doing. All that really highfalutin talk about sacrificing your eternal soul for someone. Like it's straining so hard against the nihilism it absolutely relies on for its entire aesthetic. And it's so confused. It's such a confused movie. I don't understand what it thought it was trying to achieve. And maybe that's because it went through so many different iterations. That's been like in production since like 2008 or something. And then
Yep.
it's gone through.
Yeah.
Jason Momoa was cast as the Crow at one point, for fuck's sake. Like that's not like a sign of a studio that knows what it's doing.
Do they from the trailer? It looks as though they spent half the movie building up the relationship that the original got forth in about 3 minutes, and it also looks like it's going into the cosmology of like how the Crow system works. Is that true? Like, did they spend a bunch of time explaining how the souls get transported and how they get the powers? And because then the 94 was just like, here's a bird, and if it dies, you don't have power. So just that's it. That's the only explanation we got and all we needed. Did they go into? It looks like it really went hard into over explaining what we did not need.
Yeah, so in the original comic book and the film, it's a non-linear storyline. So we get interspersed with flashbacks that provide backstory, but also contrast with the protagonist Eric's past happiness with his present torment, and that was an effective method. When it comes to the mysticism, this film spends so much time trying to explain every single aspect of it with Kronos, who tells him not only what his powers are, but he tells him what his fucking objective is. It's like, you're here to avenge her. It's like the original Eric didn't need to be told that he was angry and that he was upset. Like that was sort of implicit in what had happened to him. Yeah, so it sort of misses the mark in that regard.
It's not Eric's movie. It's Shelley's movie. That's why. Yep.
My brain has gone to a strange and probably bad place now where I'm just going through will they, won't they famous romances throughout history and just giving it the Crow treatment, like Lizzie and Mr. Darcy and Pride and Prejudice, just taking opium and fucking. And it is a truth universally acknowledged that, a guy with a dick is in search of some hot,
Even if you're not into romance movies, the idea of a good romance done well is always fantastic. And you have so many examples in your head over the years. And then you watch a movie like this, and it's like, what are you doing? Like, you just don't even know the basic, yeah. Because it could be refreshing to see, that nostalgic chemistry we've all been there, the butterflies, that first moment when you realize, you kind of have feelings for that person. It's fun to see that play out. But then when you watch someone who doesn't understand that dynamic, it's painful. Like it was half an hour, but it felt like 4 hours of those two just like fucking around. It was just
really
too
did,
much.
yeah.
Yeah.
Did anyone else notice the accent changes that happened several times throughout the film?
I definitely didn't.
Well, you did.
Because I noticed like Bill Skarsgård, it was most obvious with him, but it's like, so he just kind of has like this, I don't know, it's just like an accentless accent, I guess. Then you have a bit of his Swedish twang come in, and then he switches to full Brooklyn in the last third of the movie. That made me giggle unintentionally quite a bit. So
I was picking up on, so I play Call of Duty, as everyone probably has made fun of me at some point about, but they have the Crow on there as a skin, and he has quotes, and the quotes are fucking terrible, and he says it in his American accent where he goes, he says things like, I'm here to set the wrong things right. And then he also says things like, it's a bad day to be a bad guy.
What?
Yeah. Just like that.
I heard that pack got removed or banned in a couple countries because of one finishing kill where the shotgun just blows his head like a balloon. Apparently.
Well, I'll tell you, yeah, actually the finishing move is pretty damn funny, but it didn't get me to purchase it though.
Did anybody else notice that the actual crow was an afterthought? Because in the comic, the crow is not just like a guide, but also a symbol of the duality of Eric's journey. Like it represented the physical actions driven by the need for revenge and a spiritual emblem of his undying love for Shelley. But while we see the crow flying around Gothwick in this film, it has no connection to him like it did in the original. Mm-hmm. It's like an accessory. In the original, it sort of functioned as his eyes, as a symbolic guide. But it's effectively been replaced by Kronos, hasn't it?
Yes, 100%.
Yep. Yeah, I like that in the original Crow. I guess that wasn't really completely adapted from the comic book itself. I don't remember the comic book very well. It's been a long time. But I liked what they did with the Crow in the original film, where they had him as like his little counterpart, his pal. I didn't like how they figured out to harm the Crow is to harm Eric. I thought that was pretty contrived. They had they had the how would we describe it on MMM Vex? She was just this mystical Asian lady who knows all things.
Oh yeah, which is
stepsister.
Yeah, his sister. Yeah, I can't remember how we described it, but that was a weird choice. But like, it makes sense for the kind of this is the standard kind of movie arc that we've got to follow, so it works for a general audience sort of deal, right? So I didn't completely hate it. Was far better than whatever the fuck Vincent Rogue was in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, but in this, it's just connected to his love or whatever. So I liked that in the original film, and that was the through line even through all of the shitty sequels. It was having the Crow connected to his lifeline. But that was completely absent. One of the cool things about the original, just stripped right out.
It's a huge weakness though. Like if you hurt the crow, you hurt the guy, because like then you could just throw some bread on the floor and it flies down to eat it, and then you can just catch it and he's doomed.
Yeah, that sounds way more interesting than anything that happened in this movie, at least incorporating a fantasy element.
Yeah, well, thankfully the crow in the original film was smart though. Like it
smart.
Shit, like,
it'll peck your eyes out. That thing was a weapon.
Yeah, it was a monster.
But it's cool seeing how
any movie when a guy actually has to learn to take care of a crow would have been a way more interesting film.
Yes, exactly. Working around the weakness of the crow, like Platoon said, it's always something that could be interesting. That's something I always wonder with vampires. Like if they transform into a bat, can someone just literally smack them down and they're just dead? Like it's done. Like what's the rules? How does it actually work? So I think just
gets trapped in a swimming pool and he's just fucked.
Can you imagine that? Like but think about that. I'm half joking about that. What if it's an incredible gamble? You know, like you're risking everything. Like you could just get completely screwed over. But I don't know, these movies, like anytime I see an adaptation of any kind and I find out that there was an interesting fantasy element or supernatural element that was stripped out of it just for this crappy romance and whatever the hell this movie was, it's just sad to see. Because from what you guys have described, the first movie sounds way more interesting.
I recommend it. It's definitely aged. Like it's peak 90s basically, but I mean it's just a solid action flick for what it is. And I think with the numerous struggles they had behind the scenes for that film, what they managed to get out is quite impressive. So I do recommend it.
Yeah, it was a patchwork movie because Brandon Lee died while filming it. He didn't complete all of his scenes. And what they were able to salvage and put together was it's not the best movie ever made, that's for sure. It's of its time, but it's a landmark film, and it has a lot of bright spots, including Brandon Lee's performance. I think it's fantastic. I mean, Bill Skarsgård, I think, is a superior actor. And that's not Brandon's fault. He didn't get a chance to have a full career by any stretch. Yeah. But his performance as the Crow was 1,000 times better. He had incredible lines that were ripped straight out of the comic book too, and his delivery was just impeccable. It made him he had that balance between yes, he's doing awful things, but you're absolutely rooting for him But with Bill Skarsgård's Eric, you don't feel that way at all.
Yeah, that's why I brought up the example of Devil's Rejects. Of like, there's plenty of movies.
That's a really good one.
Yeah, there's plenty of films that can make you get on board with people that are just terrible. But this,
as long as you agree with their plight, man. That's why some people say Thanos was right.
No, exactly, man. Yeah, and it's just sad to see.
Well, this film forgoes all of the unique poetry, song lyrics, and like philosophical quotes that you see in its panels, which, as you said, Cynic, was adopted to some extent in the original film. All of that's gone here. Eric isn't a musician. He's not a poet. He's like a visual artist. And the musician is actually Shelley.
Yeah.
Did she play her instrument on a rooftop as the sun is setting? Because that was a badass scene in the original.
That was a badass scene.
She just made
that was part of the charm of that original one, is they just took a break to do weird shit like that. They were just like, what if you just
the closest this film gets, I think, is there's the scene in the bedroom, and so he plays like a bit of a song, and then he tells her to play the song because she's obviously better at it, even though she was just singing along to him playing it, and she's obviously not better at it, but apparently she is. So he gets her to do it there. So there is a bit of a musical thing, but then she just has like some sort of piano-induced PTSD moment. And so like the music scene is cut short. There's like some guy puts a sword on the piano or something. It's fucking weird. I don't really remember.
Which also was a weird choice because like the again, it's like, oh, my mom made me do this, but it's like, bitch, when you met him, you suggested you two make music together. How can you get triggered now?
God. Yeah, and to go back to the original too, they were just people that were in the wrong place at the wrong time, whereas they in this movie are part of this underworld, and they're part of the problem, and it doesn't really endear you to the characters at all. I mean, we can name 100 ways you're not endeared to the characters, but that one is contrasted with the original film. It's night and day.
I did like the management of the rehab institution facility. The amount of effort and time they put into aesthetics was quite commendable. With lovely soft pink attire that they've got to wear. And
remind me of Squid Game.
Architecture and buildings.
Bomb Squid Game vibes I was getting from that.
Yeah,
it's just really lazy. Compared to Squid Game, where like all the set pieces and everything were fantastic to look at. This was just bland and just boring. And confusing. Why the fuck were they? Why was it intergender? Yeah. What the fuck? That place would be chaos in like 48 hours. You have all those. I didn't even know what was going on again. But all I know is they should not be that open and all that. Like, there's no rules. There's no security, no cameras, and the security guards that were there weren't doing anything when they needed them to, which is just frustrating to see.
That is going to be a massively contrived beat because so like this is nearish the beginning. They're both in the asylum, and then evil woman comes to try and kill Shelley. And I can't say the word Shelley without thinking of South Park, which is another reason I'm not disposed to like this film. But then and then the crow, whatever the fuck his name is just like, yeah, no, it's fine. We can just go down to the basement and escape. It's like, okay, but then they don't think to take their ankle tags off, which track the location until they get down there. And I was thinking, well, I see where this is going. They're just going to pick up on your trail, aren't they? Because you've been a moron. So that's a contrivance, but at least it's there for a purpose. They don't even do that. They just think, oh shit, yeah, by the way, ankle tags, cut them off through the tunnel. They're out. That's it. They've escaped. Anyone could do that at any time. And I don't even know why this place even has any inmates. They should have all escaped.
I also don't understand how Eric ended up there. Do you know how expensive a rehab facility is? I don't think that the state's going to be paying for him to be in one. I was also questioning like what some of their tactics were to get him better by like just having the group stand up right next to him and berate the fucking shit out of him and just yell and scream at him. Like it's all part of the therapy, sir. It's just what's happening. Don't mind us.
This whole time I thought that was like prison. Now that you filled in that it was like therapy, now I'm even more confused. Like what the hell?
Yeah, it's a rehab facility, and that was like a therapy session. He's like, okay, all of you other people who are here against your will, stand up and yell at this guy. It's part of his therapy.
There was a moment too where it's clear that like Eric seems to be like a problem patient because there's that one black dude who's just like, I gotta be on your ass 24/7 kind of deal.
Yeah,
and
there's no payoff to that.
Yeah, I was wondering, okay, why is he hounding Eric so much? Because the first shot of him as an adult is him getting picked on in the showers. So
Eric's an emo. He doesn't look like a trouble starter.
No. No, not at
Yeah,
all.
nothing whatsoever. That's why I thought there was actually something there. Like, what's the beef here? He minds his own business. So I was most interested in that, and then suddenly they're escaping. I'm like, oh, fuck this whole plot. Okay, we're on to something else. What's going on? Romance time.
There's also the character motive establishment therapy session, which is my favorite one. That's the one when they're all outside standing in a circle. And the guy in the middle says stuff like, step forward if you think all the world's against you. And then like but not everyone steps forward. Like some people never even move. They stay on the outside ring. So I'm thinking, well, like, what's your story? Why are you there? But his motive is just like, yeah, step forward if you think the world's against you. Yeah, he steps forward. Step forward if you think all the people you love have hurt you. And he's like, yep, step forward. Step forward again if you're ready to be a happy person now. And he steps forward. It's like, oh, I see. What we've done here is we've visualized his character journey. We haven't actually seen in the movie because there isn't one.
Zack Snyder's
why I got here, but I'm
Character
ready
work
to
on
leave.
autopilot. Like,
Then he
that's-
just
oh my
declares
God.
himself cured later anyway, so there's no point.
Yeah, that's pretty terrible. I always think back to Captain Marvel's friend basically telling us her whole resume of character traits. Like, you are strong, you are funny, you are this, you are the best dancer, you are this. It's just like, come on, this is not how you do fucking character. It drives me nuts.
No, the best way to do to establish a character was through like choreography with the exposition. That's the best way to establish
Action
it.
scenes, establish character instantly. And there's so many showrunners that don't understand that. Like it's all right there. It's all there for the taking. You have to take these opportunities and do something with them. They never do.
So not a good movie then.
That's not a good film.
Did anybody else notice that the antagonist's main objective, obviously, is trying to get the footage of him whispering into Shelley's ear, but his overarching objective that becomes apparent when he finds out about Eric's supernatural powers is he's immortal, and his objective is to get immortality from the crow. Like, none of that makes any sense. He's already immortal. He's made a deal with the devil.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They they established that he had all these powers already, but then like, that's what I text you, Vex. I was like, there are fucking levels to his cronus.
Yeah.
Like, what is
Yeah,
this?
it's really
Like, he
weird.
gets a
Yeah.
fucking upgrade in the last 15 minutes, and he's got the new armor.
Yep.
He becomes Super Saiyan Crow.
And the sword felt like, okay, he has to, this is the part where he gets the sword now, guys. Just go with it. There was no build up for that, no setup, nothing. It's so lame.
God.
The villain too, they didn't. So when we first meet him and he's killing the friend, I can't remember her name, he explains like, oh, I need to, like, the devil doesn't want corrupted souls, he wants pure souls. And he's like, I don't like doing this. So that becomes his motive for wanting Eric's powers. Just like, oh, I can stay immortal, but I don't have to sacrifice people. But that was a very confusing plot point because there's several instances throughout the film where we see him have a lot of fun.
Oh my
He enjoys it.
I was about to say that's kind of interesting. That I'm like, isn't this the same guy who's like fucking people up? And like, yeah, there it is.
Right.
He's got a huge smile on his face when he's manipulating Shelley's mother into killing herself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of him, what happened to the subplot of the piano protege that he's with? That we see him pick up. She's in the car with him, and you're like, oh, this is building up to something. Is she going to help the crow? And she just disappears halfway through the movie.
Yep.
She's never seen again.
You're so right. I thought they were doing something with that. I thought it was like a scene that she was gonna stop, and then they were gonna show her hands, and they were bloody or something. Like he's been forcing her to play the song for like hours, something sadistic. But then again, nothing. They don't do anything with these little tiny moments, and I think they're setting something up.
I think the only point of her was to show that Vincent was a refined gentleman who had
Every old rich man listens to that song, like that same song. It's the beginning of Prometheus. Same freaking song. The piano, like I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Well, that's The Crow.
It was shit.
Everybody.
Hot topic, the movie.
Yep. Dollar Tree Joker.
Overall negative.
I don't even think that's a compliment almost to it. Joker is fantastic. You know, I really think this was boring, pointless, worthless, and like from what you guys have said, a bad adaptation.
Dollar Tree Suicide Squad Joker.
There we go.
Jared Leto. Jared Leto Joker.
There we go.
Jedi. I wouldn't even call this an adaptation. Like, it's not a remake. It's not a reboot. It neglects so many key aspects that define the graphic novel. The horror elements are gone. There's no Halloween motif. There's no randomness to the murders. There's no symbolism. There's none of that stark black and white illustrations. There's no grim tone.
There's no
the aesthetic-
identity.
There's no identity. There's no setting. They've replaced the grimy and grittiness of Detroit with the sleek genericness of the Czech Republic, which is where they shot this movie.
Yeah,
It kind of sounds like Tumblr the movie from what.
You know what? That's
Yeah.
accurate, actually.
I
It's
think
just
it's like
miserable.
Twilight without the romance, which is really saying something. But like, I would actually say this is a worse love story than Twilight, just because there's no love in it, for one thing. By sheer coincidence, because I stick random stuff on sort of to cycle in the background while I'm doing long editing shifts. And it's been Rick and Morty for like the last week, and I watched Rick and Two Crows like 2 days ago, and it's unironically a better arc and a better story than this is by some considerable margin.
Yeah, this is one of the most miserable love stories I've ever watched. And
Like if you mushed 9 Inch Nails with Twilight, that's what this film was for me.
I just wanted to ask something real quick before we move on to the different subject. You mentioned like Brandon Lee passing away, and them still being able to manage a decent movie. The Dark Knight's another example of that. What do you think's the best example of a movie being salvaged after someone a key role passed away?
Well, I will say The Dark Knight, he did complete all of his stuff. So
Yeah.
it's not nearly as bad as what they had to do with with this. Like if they were going to go back and do reshoots or anything like that, which in 2008 in Dark Knight, I doubt Christopher Nolan probably wasn't going to do reshoots. So they got what they wanted out of it. But yeah, that's a really good question. I think actually the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus would probably be like a better comparison. That is a pretty interesting project, I'll say. I don't think it's a great film, but that's a pretty good one. A pretty good example of how they took something that was a disaster and probably should have just ended up being a tax write-off and just cut it off, and it salvaged something out of it. Or the original Crow, honestly, like probably the Crow, the 90s one, because of the fact that it is still to this day a landmark movie, where Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus is like an interesting disaster.
The 1994 Crow too. It's not even just that Brandon Lee died. Like there were a lot of people that got injured on the making of that film. There was a guy who got so angry he drove a truck through the prop studio as well. Like people got set on fire. Like people broke limbs. So like it was pretty wild what was going on at that production. And they even considered like they were going to scrap it altogether until the director was just like looking at the stuff and he's like, I can't let like it would have gone to waste. Like Brandon Lee's work would have just gone completely to waste if I scrap it. So I would say, and it's still iconic 30 years later. So that's probably the best example. Yeah.
Yeah, that film set was like Alec Baldwin was a producer on that fucker.
Well, it wasn't a death, but all the money in the world wasn't a death. But when Kevin Spacey just got chucked out because of the allegations, and then Christopher Plummer came in at the 11th hour and won an Academy Award.
Oh,
for swapping the role. So that was pretty cool.
Oh, pretty cool. That's how it happens.
Yeah, that is.
I have a bit of trivia here that sort of links these two films. So in the 1994 movie, Brandon Lee's stunt double was Chad Stahelski, who made the John Wick films, which pretty much inspired this reboot.
Wow.
In terms of tone and style.
And I'm sure The Crow inspired John Wick, considering it's I mean, there's a
so.
lot of aesthetic things that are similar to it.
I'd be Jedi. I'd be interested to hear your take of the 1994 because, like, rewatching it, you can see all of the movies today that have taken so much inspiration from it. It's insane how like inspirational and iconic that movie is. So I'd be curious to hear your take.
Actually, thank you again. You just reminded me. I was going to say something before Echo said something there, and I completely forgot it. But you just helped me get it back. I always like watching movies after hearing about crazy, just in terms of trying to film production, like the Abyss, like all the disasters that took place trying to put that movie together. It's really interesting when you have that in your mind watching it. So that's definitely one to be able to take out. So if I check it out, I'll definitely be able to let you know, because it's just cool. Like I heard you guys take on Romulus. I fucking hated that movie. Hated it so much that it made me want to rewatch like the whole franchise. And like, I think Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection have gone up in value because of Romulus. At least they tried to do something. fuck that movie. But this is one of those situations too where maybe I'll go back and watch the first one. But yeah.
I actually too. I haven't seen it in a long time, but in my head, I still have a soft spot for The Crow City of Angels, which is it's not a sequel, but it is the sequel. Like there's every single Crow movie is a new character brought back to avenge something or other. I didn't mind that one. So check that one out too if you get a chance. You probably won't like it. I don't think many people did, honestly, but I do have a soft spot for it. I think it's the only one that tried to do something and have its own. If film is certainly a visual medium, it definitely tried to have its own aesthetic too to separate itself from the original. The rest star like there are at least two more I know of that stars fucking Edward Furlong, like right in the midst of his hardcore drug binge. So those aren't very good, but yeah,
he's a sad
the original
case.
sequel's okay.
On the notion of there being multiple iterations, considering the Crow comics, there's so many different like characters that adopt the mantle of the Crow other than Eric Draven. I don't understand why they didn't just pick another character for this movie. Like there was no reason to sully the name of Eric in this.
Agreed.
Name recognition is the only thing that got them to the $4 million they have made.
Yeah, that's true.
4 million. It is wild how wrong I've been about box office in the past couple months, because even last week, I thought from the trailers alone and from the name alone that with a $50 million budget, this movie would at least break even. I was wrong.
No, isn't it competing with Romulus and Deadpool still? Like I don't see.
No, it's competing with Borderlands for biggest bomb of the year.
Why did they make that? What were they thinking?
I don't know.
Borderlands was so much more enjoyable than this, and I hated Borderlands. Like we tore that apart.
I'd agree with that.
There are some cinemas where in circulation simultaneously is The Crow, Borderlands, and Romulus. That's astonishing.
Yep.
Wow.
What did you think of Romulus?
Down the street.
What do you think of Romulus?
Me? I thought I did a review saying it was my worst film of the year. But that news has become very stale in the last 24 hours. Just because of what they did to Ian Holm was just unforgivable for me.
An abomination.
That was atrocious.
Yeah, that was pretty rough.
I feel like they had no ideas of their own. I can't give them credit for almost anything that they did. It was like a highlight of all the movies. A little bit of Resurrection, a little bit of Alien 1, 2, 3, even a bit of Prometheus. They brought back the black goo, and the lack of characters, the Gerber baby at the end, like everything was just a fucking disaster for me. I could see people liking it. Like I'm not like blind to that. I personally think it's like possibly the worst one in the entire franchise, just because of how like the lack of a vision. As much as I despise Prometheus, they had something in mind. They fucked it up, but they were trying something. Covenant shat the bed. Covenant destroys Prometheus. Even like Covenant it's between Covenant and Romulus for me.
Do you consider the AVP movies as part of that?
I don't even acknowledge their existence.
Okay, because I think the Alien versus Predator movies are the worst in that franchise.
That's why I just leave them out, because it makes the conversation so much more complicated.
Yeah, fair enough.
I thought from a technical standpoint, I thought the Alien Romulus was fine. The aesthetic was great. It adopted the setting of the first two Alien movies well. Obviously, there's a lot of flaws with the characters. The film was unable to sort of like sever its umbilical cord to Prometheus and Alien Covenant. And in my review, I sort of said that part of the reason probably had to do with Ridley Scott's oversight and the studio wanting this film to tie into every other film. And Vex messaged me before this and sort of confirmed that. Like Ridley Scott forced Fede Alvarez to make sure there were nods to his movies in addition to all the other movies.
But
it was even worse than that. Ridley Scott was on set and he was doing rewrites while they were shooting to make sure that it fit his universe, allegedly.
But
and so,
again, sorry, go ahead, Vex.
Oh no, I was just going to add, like, there was the reason why the hybrid at the end looks the way he does is because there was supposed to be an engineer in the original script.
Yeah. Oh my god. My big thing too is everyone who defends this movie basically goes into that, like the set design, like the practical effects, like the overall aesthetic was pleasing. It's not their aesthetic. They're taking it from the original Alien and Aliens. This isn't something they came up with, so I can't even give them credit for that. I feel like everything in this movie was like stolen, and stolen in a way where they don't even truly understand. Like one of the things that really pissed me off was the ending of her saying, "Oh, Rain, the last surviving member of blah 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 ship." She wasn't even fucking a part of that ship. Like they were there to breaking into it. It doesn't make any sense. It's just there to copy Ripley's line at the end of Alien. It's an example of them copying the scenes and not even understanding why they're there in the first place. And I think that's one of the worst things you can do.
In addition to me not being happy about them resurrecting Ian Holm, I thought it was pointless that they reused a lot of the dialogue. Like, I can't lie to you about your chances, but you have my sympathies. Not necessary. And worst of all for me was Andy saying, "Get away from her, you bitch."
He's a robot. He's a fucking robot. He hasn't been characterized in a way where we'd have anything like that. It's not like the T-800 where there's setup lines with John Connor. So when he says it, we have a good understanding of why a robot would be saying these things. They said it just because they wanted to copy Ripley. It's so stupid.
I think they could have adopted some aspect of that, but made it original by having him say, "Get away from my sister." Because throughout the entire film, Rain refers to him as her brother, and it would have just been a nice way to...
That would have been nice.
Yeah,
but instead we get this character whose whole aesthetic is quite actually refreshing. He's an android who's diffident and uneasy, and just suddenly saying "you bitch," it's so it jumps out at you. So it jumps out at you worse than a jump scare of an alien.
You just nailed it on the head. That would have been a better payoff. Let go of my sister, or get away from my sister. Because the whole brother-sister dynamic throughout the movie, they did nothing with it. They kept it's one of those things where you had to fill it in yourself, the entire dynamic. There's no payoffs. Even the scene of him looking back at the xenomorph, because he's like the more pragmatic version now. Whether he was the retarded version or the responsible version, either version wouldn't have opened the door. Oh, sorry. Nope. It's just neither version of him would have opened the door. So it's just you could have just had it at the beginning where he gets roughed up and pushed around by those guys at the beginning, and one of them calls him a bitch while he pushes him down to the ground in the white stuff because that's going to, from his forehead, and then you could do it as like a callback to that. Would have been also acceptable. Better than nothing.
Did anyone else see one of the stupid Easter eggs that Fede Alvarez recently confirmed a couple days ago? So in the opening, the title sequence, when you see the alien symbols pop on, there's a pod that you can see floating in the background, and that's supposed to be Ripley's pod from Alien.
No.
Yeah. He confirmed that is actually an Easter egg in the movie, and I was just like, kind of wanted to smash my head against the table.
The spear that Ripley hit the xenomorph with was still in it, just so we can see. Look, guys, look, it's the same one. Look. And when it doesn't even make any sense, they will remove that right away. Like, just so much of it. I can go out all day, but what can you
do? We weren't done talking about the...
I just throw that in real quick.
No, I just pulled up the slides. I was like, oh yeah, I actually did bring up the box office about The Crow. Yeah, this is how much it made, guys. 4.6 million. It hasn't touched international waters yet, but
when is
it's not going to do anything. Release? I don't know. But honestly, it's not going to matter. Look, you can see right here, 2,752 theaters. The studio at least knew they had a stinker, and they didn't care. Like, if you're going to have a major release in North America now, it's normally 4,000 plus. So the fact that it was under 3 is just crazy. They really were not expecting this to do anything. The lower the theater count too, the higher the total per theater you expect to see. Obviously, with 4.6 million, you ain't getting anything out of 2,800 theaters.
There's a centered and focused elevator pitch. What's the genre? Well, it's an action, crime, fantasy, horror, romance thriller.
Oh, great!
Shove it all in there and hope something sticks. Oh, man.
Well, it's certainly not an action movie, considering there is one action scene in the entire film, and it was at the end, and it was in the trailer.
I didn't know it in that opera hear all the gun fire going off. Like that took me right out of it immediately.
That fight went on for 10 minutes, and there's lots of gunshots. Nobody heard anything.
They thought it was
loud. That's
thought it
why.
was so epic and spectacular, and I was just blinking, waiting for it to end. And the scene at the actually, that's one thing I was gonna ask. Is there anything that any scene that you did like whatsoever?
Nope.
Anyone?
There was one moment in the movie during that it was during that fight that I didn't laugh at the movie or, have my frowny face on. It was when a guy went to shoot himself in the head because he didn't want the crow to kill him because he was watching him kill all of his buddies viciously.
I didn't even notice that.
So he went to shoot himself in the head and the crow cuts his arm off so he can't do it. And I was like, all right.
I was too distracted by everybody running right up to him with the guns, forgetting it's a fucking ranged weapon. Like over and over and over again. It's just ugh.
My absolute favorite moment of the entire movie is the when he confronts Vincent Rogue the first time in the shootout, and they go through the tunnel, and he gets kicked out of the car, and you see an 18-wheeler go over his body. And he just stands up, and all he's got is like a cut lip and a broken leg.
Right, and it's like a bone sticking out of his leg, like it's somebody got fingered or something.
Oh my god, mushed.
God.
There was one good scene when he was in the car with the guy, the black dude with the cigarette, and he shot the gun, and his ears were ringing. Like the fact that they actually
I appreciated that.
Thank you, because so many times they don't bother. Yes. That's it. That's all I got. And
I was like, that's where you guys wanted to pay attention to that.
of all this shit box movie, it's one of the only movies in like ages I've seen pay attention to such a key detail. But the rest, I got nothing for you. It's crap.
Yeah, I picked up on that too, and I was like, okay, well, thanks, I guess, for being realistic in this movie of all places. Okay, cool.
This there was a re-release of Coraline that happened this past weekend that made double this.
Oh yeah, I walked by that in the theater on the way to my showing, and I was like, I kind of want to see that again. I haven't seen that in a while.
The saving grace is isn't the budget only about 50 million for this,
which is why I thought it would break even.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but as opposed to something like Borderlands, which is obviously like famously absurdly large, will mean that even if this bombs, it can't be as big a bomb as that, simply because it's not going to lose as much money.
Yeah, 110 million budget before marketing and all that jazz for Borderlands, so that's going to be a financial disaster for that studio.
Both Lionsgate productions as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, both Lionsgate. Yep.
I did not know that. Wow. So that studio is just killing it this year. They're the Disney of 2024.
I guess so. Yeah. Yeah. They even they did a poor job marketing Boy Kills World. They came out back in like February, March, which is actually like a decent movie. It wasn't perfect, but it was a lot of fun. But they didn't market that whatsoever, and that could have made them money. But they put all their marketing into these two flops instead.
Yeah. Speaking of flops, does anyone have any other contributions to The Crow? We've given it an hour and
only one that if they'd just done the most absolute generic remake, beat for beat from the original, they probably would have made 20 million by now. That's my last thought on it.
I would completely agree. Based on the trailer, I thought this movie would break even. So it's absolutely the quality of the film that made it open to this amount of money.
Yeah, word of mouth is gonna obliterate this movie.
Bury this film.
It already has, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, speaking of bombs,
my boy,
my guy. Twitch Game is quite surprised Disney canceled the Acolyte. He's hoping for changes in the future, so he gets a season 2.
It's not happening, bro. Let it go.
The change needs to be that Lucasfilm gets sold to a different company. That would be the change that would allow for a season 2 or anything of quality to be made in the Star Wars universe now.
Man, when I came on and talked about the Acolyte with you guys, that feels like it was 1,000 years ago in like internet time, in terms of like we hadn't even begun the stupidity of that show. Because I waited to the end, laughed at all the memes and all the whatnot, but then what they did to Soul, that pissed me off in a way I haven't felt in a long time. Like that's one of the worst character assassinations I've seen in like ages.
Throughout the entire series, he gets gaslit into thinking he did anything wrong, and it's like, no, he's the protagonist. He's the good guy.
He's the hero.
Carried that show with his performances and his expressions, and got shat on in every way. Like,
could you imagine if Disney got mileage out of this movie that YouTubers had, or out of this show rather, because. Yeah, like you said, it felt like 1,000 years ago, but like, man, there's so much to talk about when it comes to this show. If only they could get the longevity out of it that we can.
14 hours for some of us. Fucking
Yeah,
Platoon.
Jesus, I saw that.
Yeah.
Little Platoons posted a
Fucking
new video.
barbarian.
14 hours. What the
Don't
fuck?
you have a 10-hour limit and they just won't allow you to go over that? I didn't
No,
know.
not anymore. Apparently,
That's the
it
first
was
thing I
weird.
was
Like
thinking.
YouTube couldn't make its mind up. The first time I uploaded it, it was fine except for copyright stuff. When it's just like a couple of music. There's a bit of a Lionel Richie song over Palpatine and Anakin having sex, which I'm too stubborn to remove, even though it's not like massively important. But it's like, I'm not going to cut that out just for the sake of you. So I re-uploaded a different one, like a slightly shorter version, and it told me that one was too long. But then I re-uploaded it again, and it was fine. So I don't really know. I think the longest video on YouTube is still like hundreds of hours. So they seem to have removed whatever cap they used
So
to be,
I
but
thought- I
it's
thought
like a
the cap
file
was-
size limit.
Yeah, I thought the cap was only 12 hours for live streams, but you could
Yeah,
upload.
yeah.
like,
Yeah, live
longer
streams have a
videos.
12-hour cap.
Live
And actually,
streams
it cuts
have a
off slightly earlier than that. It's like 11 hours
50
45,
minutes.
I think, or 50. But I genuinely don't know. The interesting thing will be, because the Rings of Power video I'm working on, which is the only reason really I stuck a supercut for Acolyte stuff up, is probably going to be about as long, but with like new content as opposed to older content. So it'll be interesting to see if I ever combine those into some mammoth like 50-hour video, whether it will let me have them.
Is there just the one bit of poetry in that one, or are there multiple instances of limericks in your Rings of Power video? Because that was pretty great.
There's the one ballad for Waldrick, which is I've written. There's a lot of Tolkien stuff because it's good. I like that stuff. I might try and find an excuse to put some more like poetry that they should have had but didn't in there somewhere. But otherwise, I'm just making, at the moment, I'm losing loads of time by making up more similes for Gil-galad to speak, because every single time he speaks, he tries to do a simile and they're fucking
Oh
awful.
my god. I'm trying to rewatch Rings of Power, and that's the hardest part. The fucking dialogue. Just shut up. Stop trying to
Yeah.
sound clever. It makes it so hard to get through these scenes.
It's like this
It's so rough.
faux Tolkien, terrible fucking poetry.
Yeah. Why
I
does
wanted to
fucking
cover the
rock
Rings of Power,
sink?
but I couldn't get past the first 15 minutes of episode 1. It was so painful.
It's so bad. I've conditioned myself to not fall asleep to things, right? And I've drifted away like 3 times watching that, like during that first episode. It's so fucking brutal. But I'm I think Platoon, Rings of Power is kind of when you started coming around. Like I think that's the first time I saw you on EFAP, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it was sort of that side of that year. Was that 2022? God, it's been 2
Yeah.
years already.
Oh,
How's that
yeah.
happened?
Crazy.
But yeah, Rings of Power. I think Thor: Love and Thunder was sort of around then, and then She-Hulk followed after it.
Yeah, that was
I
the
could say-
combo.
Or She-Hulk and then Rings of Power.
Yeah, it was.
No,
It was a
it was
good
Rings
little-
of
good little
Power,
time.
House of the Dragon, She-Hulk, and Andor all going on pretty much like around the same time.
Those
So it
started
was, like,
Platoon and
chaos.
I's YouTube careers.
Yeah,
Yeah, pretty much. The Rings of Power is what finally got me over the hump. So like we all kind of have like an attachment to this series. And
I'd
I
like
can't
to
wait
think
for more Guy
the Acolyte has done the same for many other people. So
Yeah,
it's
I would
still
say
added
so,
something
too.
to the
I-
belt.
I think TLJ, Game of Thrones season 8, the Rings of Power, and the Acolyte. Those are the 4 big ones where like just if you want to start a YouTube channel, like those were the times to do it. Just jump right
No,
in. The
I
algorithm's on
I was
fire.
born upon the wings of Velma into.
Oh,
Yes,
yes,
that was.
Velma,
There's always something to kickstart your career somewhere.
Yeah.
Velma was one. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
No, I wanted
TLJ,
to
if
do
anyone's
that once.
wondering what my name's from, TLJ broke my brain and turned me to a reviewer. So that's where Jet Egg Brooks comes from.
I'm still making up from the lost time because I was nowhere near the internet when that was happening. So it's like I missed TLJ and I missed Game of Thrones season 8, like all the really, really massive stuff. So it's the only reason I'm looking forward to the Rey movie or even the Mando movie, just a Star Wars movie, just because I haven't had my turn yet. So I wasn't even online for fucking Rise of Skywalker.
You know,
Oh my
if you go back, they're still
Got all that
getting,
documented.
like Nutsa is doing
Yeah.
reviews of the 3 sequels, and they're
Yes,
going gangbusters. Like it's fantastic. It doesn't. Time is not an issue with those. shitty
No,
movies.
Mahler's
Like,
still not done with his TFA series. Like it's never too
Yeah.
late, man. It's never too
Yeah.
late.
I mean, every one he puts out still gets like 1.5 million views.
God.
It's because just as long as you have a good perspective on a topic people care about, they're passionate about, whether it's
Yeah.
good or bad. I mean, they'll
Yeah.
come back to it for sure.
And he's built his reputation on the type of quality that he wants to put into the
Yeah,
video. right?
absolutely.
So that's just a big factor.
Mhm. Yeah, unlike the movies that they're actually critiquing, they're not built on quality, hence they don't stand the test of time.
Oh, Christ.
We have a ton of super chats. Would you mind if I get through a few before we move on to the next topic?
Ooh.
Let's do it.
Cool. Michael Brocky for an ass $5. Hail to all for Platoon. Would you ever sell plushies? We need one from our favorite posh cartoon to join the Drinker, Gary, and Mahler ones.
I can't find anywhere that will let me like add real wine and a real cigarette to the plushie. Like as soon as I find one of those, maybe next year something will happen. I don't know, but
it does seem required. Yeah,
yeah. Like but like I think you'd have problem with customs and age restrictions. But I'd like people to be able to enjoy a little glass of actual wine with the plushie they buy.
Thank you for that super chat, Michael. You can read these because it's built in to the super chat that it's going to be mispronounced, and that ain't going to be me. Your turn.
Toivo Korhonen. I think that's right. For 10 euros. Here's 10 more for having to pronounce my weird Finnish name. You can let us know if you're still around if we actually got it right.
Toivo Korhonen?
It was a double. So here's the second one.
God. Toivo Korhonen again for 10 euros again. Here's 10 more because I know YouTube takes its greedy little cut from the pie. It does. I don't know exactly how much that cut is. I just know I'd be substantially richer if it took less.
I think it takes like 50%. No
30.
Joke. 30? Oh, okay.
I thought it was 30.
Yeah, it's 70
I had
30.
no idea. I had no idea.
50. What are you talking about, bro?
Well, I don't know. Their
They didn't
AdSense,
have your
they
ad
take
revenue.
like, if your RPM versus your CPM is like, they take like 65% in the end. Yeah.
Oh, I think the
They
ads
say
are
it's 40,
different.
but it's more like they take the 60. So
Yeah, super chats, it's 30%.
gotcha.
I'm
I
so
think it wasn't
hyper-focused.
quite fair with Toivo. Like, there weren't any of those tiny little circles or little slants or umlaut double dots above any of the letters in his name. So I don't think we could quite have a pitch at what it would have been pronounced like. But maybe he'll put it back in the chat with all those.
Yeah, no
things.
accents. It
couldn't
wasn't
be
the
an
hardest
idea
one
product,
to look
that's
at
for
to pronounce. I've seen way harder ones that look like I would struggle to pronounce them.
That
Mostly
name
because they're
was
like from
easy to
Scotland or like Wales. Welsh names are the hardest, I think.
TGV Monster, channel regular. Thank you, sir, for $2. Hi, Platoon, Cynic, Echo Vex, Jedi Greg, and Film Comics. Well, hi to you.
Hi.
I read that as just Jedi Greg as one name.
Yeah, I
quite
know.
like that.
Jedi Greg.
Jedi Greg.
Here is Toivo again. Screw it. I can try and mispronounce it. Toivo Kronen. For $50. Yes, I live in Finland and you always stream in the middle of the night. I wanted to catch you live on my 3-week vacation, but you didn't stream then. So now I'm paying you 50 European Union money to all sing and chant the power of many.
In unison. No, it's got to be okay. On 3.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. The power
of
many.
Get it?
I think those are better than US dollars. You just got a real treat right there.
I think that sounded better than the show did.
I couldn't believe that when that started happening. What are we doing, show?
It was fun because I was doing the supercut and going back over and like trying to find titles for the individual parts and like how much of it I had forgotten. Like, and I remembered like the main beats, like the power of many is kind of unforgettable, but like where it comes in, that's certainly one of the lowlights of the entire show. I can't think how they looked at that, heard it, scripted it, did anything to it, and thought, yeah, that's good. That'll work.
More good.
Anytime I see scenes like that, I just wonder, like, from the lowest level, like the guy, the cameraman, the lights, like anyone who was there on set should have had something to say about that. Like, this is not the way to go about it.
I think the general vibe was we'll fix it in post. It'll work in post once we do.
What can you fix about that? It's just like it's unfixable. That was an atrocious scene.
Judge Zed caught us. We have to. You gotta throw that in there at the end.
The choreography.
Jake Jarman is daddy for $4.99. There's more daddy to be had in the super chat. The Acolyte may have been garbage, but Manny, is it? How do you pronounce that? Jacinto?
I think it's just Jacinto, isn't it? Yeah.
Jacinto, could run me over with a car, and I'd still say yes, daddy. Well then,
it's one of the highlights of the show.
That feeling was mutual. I think.
Did
for
you see?
a while on the internet.
Yeah, like lots of people were simping on Sexy Smilo. I just did it sort of as a meme, not genuinely. Honestly, guys, it was genuinely just a meme. Did you see, like, it was one of the things, because the only like substantively new thing in the supercut is the introduction, and I did like find some new things from all like the mad reactions to news of its cancellation, which people were very upset about. All 5 of them who really liked the show were very upset. But one of them who got so like 3,000 likes for some reason was like absolutely raving mad that they cancelled it on Manny Jacinto's birthday. Oh my God, how evil of them. They gave him a panel at some Comic-Con and it was his birthday and they cancelled the show because they're evil. And for one like 5-second interval, all the people who used to think it was racist to criticize the company were criticizing the company. And we could all agree that Disney is shit, but they will immediately change their minds the minute the next thing comes out.
Yep.
How long? What's your upload? Did it take you 14? I'm basically 1 to 1 minute for upload speed. Did it take you 14 hours to upload that video?
That's like, oh, I can't, my voice doesn't really convey my happiness about this fact, but I will just relate the fact anyway. Up until 4 days ago, I think it was, it would have taken days to upload. Like a 6-hour video probably took 8, 9, 10 hours because the internet in this village is awful. But they just gave us real live internet, and that video took 90 minutes to upload.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
It's fantastic. Better. It's so much better. And like, even while it was uploading, and I was on Discord at the time, and I ran the speed test, and I still had like 900 meg down. It was fantastic. So I'm very happy about this.
Were you living in the Shire, Platoon?
I do live in the Shire. I unironically do live in the Shire. It's all green hills and little villages.
So every time you get a copyright, you have to like that's a whole day just shot.
Yes, that is so. Like, so that's why it was so maddening. I used to lose my temper with it so much. Like, especially Rings of Power was the worst one because it would clear, and then like 5 minutes before it was due to go live for the premiere, they would manually claim like a 5-second clip, and that's going to be it's going to be the next 8 hours fixing that.
I couldn't fathom doing that. I was when I was in Maine. It's dial-up basically. So a 15 or 16 minute video, I was still losing my mind because it would take like 5 hours to upload a 16-minute video. I couldn't imagine having to go through the copyright claims that you would have to. Your patience is eternal, sir. I don't understand.
It's insane. Like I'm going through a video that's just under 2 hours. It's going to be one of the longest videos I've ever made. And I'm thinking about what the fuck it must be like to go through a 5-6 hour video and have to deal with all the things. And the problem is, YouTube will tell you one problem at a time when they're
one at a time, baby.
It's insanity. But this is part of the thing I was trying to contact you about, Platoon, about. I think I've cracked some kind of code on that in terms of trying to get more of an answer. Because when you go to the trim out the segment, it highlights a whole bunch of areas. And I tried to go to those areas and in my video, and I'm like, you know what? Let me see what could possibly flag for this. Fix all of those. I spent like 10 hours doing it. And a video that went from blocked and like demonetized for months is perfectly green. It's been green for like a few days now. And that might be the secret. Like
they did that to me for a Rings of Power video as well. And I tried that method and it was working, but they just kept claiming it to the point where the video was like, it was like 35 minutes. And I just, I trimmed it down to like 18. Like just to see what they do, and they were still claiming stuff. So I finally just wrote them a letter. Actually, Platoon, you told me to do this. I just wrote them a thing saying, "Stop fucking doing this," because you know that you know this. You're full of shit, and they stopped. They stopped. Yeah, I finally released the video.
Nice. I just filed my first appeal ever. I've always been too scared to do it, but I'm just enough. Enough is enough already. Like I've been doing this for years. I know this is bullshit. Like I'm like. Yeah, I've tried disputes, but I've never gone to the appeal process. But I'm fed up because it's just insane. You put your hard work in, and they just decide, no, there's one little clip. Fuck you.
It wasn't always like that. So when I started in YouTube like 7 years ago, you'd upload a video, and it would show you every single segment. So if you had like a 30-minute video, it would show you all the 20 spots where it was copyright claimed, how long those segments were, and you could just do one edit and fix that.
You're describing a fantasy world. Dream.
I don't know why they changed that. But what I do now is if it does get claimed, like Cynic, I have a template letter that I send out, and I just change the to whom it may concern, whoever the target is, and it seems to be fine.
My favorite is when they claim stuff that isn't even produced by them because they just decided because it's mixed in with some stuff they claim, and they're like, you know what? Yes, you put a WWE meme in there, but we're going to claim that too. Like, okay, right on.
We all know music is the harshest, but like you never know. I've had a video say that there's sexuality in it in the thumbnail or title, and I didn't have a thumbnail or title yet. Like it doesn't even make any sense. It's like, what? Where am I searching? Like what? I went through the whole video. I was so fucking confused, and to this day, that thing is limited, so I just turned it off. It was the point.
The copyright claim system is open to abuse because I did a long June law video a couple months ago, and we used AI generated art. Like, so we used our own inputs and stuff. And somebody claimed, of the 3-hour video, I think they claimed one image, and they took down the video, and it took like a month to get that back up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, Random Film Talk has it. He's the copyright system is designed to scare us so that we don't appeal. Absolutely. Yes.
If you lose, you get a strike.
Yeah.
And you'll have to remove the video, and it's a big boogeyman.
Let me go through a few more of these here. TGB Monster again for $5. Fun fact: JC's John Carpenter's The Thing was based off the story Who Goes There, which may have been inspired by Lovecraft's At the Mountains of Madness. I will take that as a fact because you said it to me.
Is that true then? Because I mean, the 56 version of The Thing obviously was the original Thing from Outer Space. I don't know, like there's huge differences. Maybe he took more inspiration from. I've not read that book. Maybe that book is what is responsible for the very different tone. I just like the difference because like in 1950s, everyone was very sort of prim and proper, and they were all keen on working together. Let's band together against this strange alien chap. And we'll all fight him together. And then by the 80s, it's just, no, you're probably a communist. Die. Yeah, the downfall of social trust in 2 films.
This one's for you, Platoon, if you want to read this one.
I can. Primark 117 for $4.99. Hats off to you, Platoon. You held your ground admirably on Saturday and proved yourself as the most honorable sadist. Cheers, fellow peasants.
Sadistic fucker.
Yeah.
Yo, I've tried to fucking like back you up on that, like just try to get some clarity on it because he was ducking and dodging like fucking deal, man. That was insane. It's like
I'm not privy to this. Can someone fill me in here? I had
a bit of. I don't know how you describe it because I wouldn't frame it as an argument. But Keemstar was on EFAP briefly, and I asked him a few questions about like the moral basis for continuing to have Boogie on a show after he has lied about cancer, lied to everybody's audiences, and used it to con money out of people. And I like Keemstar's circle is not mine. I know very little about the guy, but it seemed that that should at least be understood because you could read it in such a way as that's a pretty immoral thing to do in itself. You're A, incentivizing Boogie to do more of it, and B, you are yourself monetizing off of other people's pain, which is certainly going to be true when, as he said he would on EFAP, he intends to have Boogie sit down with a bunch of kids who actually have cancer, for example. Boogie's going to get paid for doing that. And Keemstar, I believe him when he says the money doesn't matter to him because he's stupidly rich, but Boogie will get paid for doing that. And it seems like we have this weird thing on the internet, which is not true of almost any other entertainment medium, as much as we like to shit on old media and mainstream media. The internet is the one place where you can be as bad a human being as is possible to be. And that's what gets you invited on back. Like you continue to get paid for being the worst person. Whereas at least in old media, like you have to hide if you're a really shit person, because if it comes out, you will be sacked. The internet's not like that. And I don't particularly like that the internet isn't like that. I don't think just because something is entertaining that you should have no regard whatsoever for downstream effects, for the incentives you give to bad people to do more bad things. And so I just figured it would be interesting to get King's perspective on it. He wasn't very keen on giving his perspective on it and ended up saying that I was doing cancel culture by asking him questions. And then he called the chat peasants. So now I'm in charge. I am the platoon leader of the peasants, like a good old Bolshevik.
No, even more than that, because his inability to engage with the question was frustrating because we know he completely understands the question, and he's and someone in his position. Part of the reason I wanted to get in and like try to jump in a little bit was someone in his position should be ready for that question and be willing to explain his perspective. Do you kind of actually juggle with it and you feel like you actually know this is a bad thing you're doing and you're not sure, but you're just abusing it for the podcast? Or do you actually not care whatsoever? I would rather him just be direct than just be like, dude, I don't know you. It's just a thing I do on the side. It's this or whatever. He'd be homeless, man. You're sadistic. That's sadistic.
Oh, that was funny. Yeah, he called me sadistic, having like talked about all these brand new punishments that he was coming up for Boogie. But
and then hours later, he's trying to get him to drink piss after fucking calling you sadistic. I was there like rolling my head the whole time. Like, what is that?
And it's look, like he has every right to do it. Like this is not me saying that nobody should watch or enjoy it. If you find that entertaining, fair enough. I just think there are certain considerations at play. And especially, when it comes to something like cancer, which is it's a slightly raw subject anyway. Obviously, cynics not to delve into your backstory too much, but like that's come up recently. My oldest friend has gone through an experience quite recently. He was in the room when doctors came in and asked his mum whether she would want to be resuscitated if the operation went wrong. And like we're having this conversation about that like last weekend. So it's a slightly raw subject, which is why it came up, and I was sort of a bit insistent on asking the question, because I think, yeah, it's fine to say it's entertaining, and I'm sure it is entertaining, and yeah, we've watched it on EFAB, it's entertaining to watch, but I kind of wonder about people's moral scruples and how removed they are from the actual thing they're effectively monetizing and memeing about.
Yeah.
If they haven't had that experience, whether they would continue to monetize it if they had that experience. If you want to do that, that's fine. You can live with yourself, Keem, and all power to you. It's just, yeah, I figured it would be worth asking the question.
I could immediately tell you were passionate about the subject, and like the way he was just dancing around it was really frustrating to see, because I find Keem entertaining, but like that just I'm like, oh, I can't respect him after that. That was just shit. Like he could have I would have much rather him just come out and say you're totally right, and I'm gonna be like I'm just abusing this until the wheels fall off. I know it's a horrible thing, but well, just so I'd rather him just be direct rather than kind of just pretend and kind of just duck and dodge and say, call you sadistic and say he's going to be homeless. And the guy's got a big ass mansion practically that he can sell. So it's just kind of a fucked up subject. It was weird.
He doesn't care about Boogie. Like, Keem is a scumbag. He's exploiting Boogie. He knows that Boogie's done a lot of horrible things, and he just wants to endlessly torture him. And he knows that the moment he removes Boogie from the show, there's going to be no show.
There's nothing.
This is the guy who kept Boogie for lying about cancer and got rid of, I think it's Tommy C, who was like the only honorable person on that panel. He has a family, he's got kids, simply because Tommy was going to expose him for all the lies that Keem had told throughout the series. So
I'll have to go back and check that part of the stream out. I dropped into EBAMP a few times, but I mean, 24 hours.
You definitely, you definitely should though. It's funny because like, I don't know, a lot of people got like, oh, Keem here just because of the numbers and whatnot. I don't know this motherfucker. So I was kind of more curious about what Platoon had to say, because his question was a rational one. And it was frustrating that no one else was. It was a weird situation. You don't want to jump at the guy at the same time too. But I think he handled that horribly. And it's just weird being in that situation and like not getting a direct answer from someone who should have one built in. Like he knows what he's doing. Like,
I think that was the point, because like, he probably has been asked those questions before, and I think Mulder said he has like heard the answers to those questions before, and they'll never be particularly satisfying. But I liked Mulder's idea of like actually making Boogie do community service, for example, as a punishment, because then it adds something back. It's
yeah,
like,
he'll
he
lose
could do that
weight
for the rest of his life, and maybe he can become something like the bottom tier of human again.
I think liar on the forehead is what we really need. It needs to be something permanent. Like it needs to be a type of punishment that he can't hide, he can't fuck around with. It just fundamentally changes his life and the way he interacts with everyone. That's what
reenacts Game of Thrones, having walked down the street while everyone shouts shame and
he would like that. That's attention.
He just needs to not be on the internet. Like he should not be in public anymore. Like he's done.
But like you said,
that's how it should be. But there we are.
This is the one place where you don't get held accountable for those type of things. It's kind of crazy. So that's why I think it's a unique place. So we need a unique punishment. Liar tattoo on the forehead.
Shash brand on the forehead.
Yeah.
I'll just go through a couple more of these. There's a bunch, but just get it down to a reasonable figure. Galster 1908 for 10 fake dollars. So guys, does any one of you get any thoughts on the upcoming 40K series planned by Amazon? My hope died after that grape of Tolkien.
Lost me at Amazon.
Is Cavill still in charge of that, or is Amazon are they handing it to like a Phoebe Waller-Bridge or something?
I thought it got put on the sidelines, was the recent report. They were debating about whether, because it hasn't gone into full production yet. And we haven't gotten any updates in over a year.
Yeah, I have no idea. I'm not following this one.
I think the world of 40K is so huge. There's so much that they can explore if they do it correctly. But, seeing Amazon's previous track record, I'm not sure they will. And so I'm a bit concerned, actually. If they remove Cavill and he's no longer part of the project, I doubt it's going to be that good.
Galster is also a new member.
Welcome.
Dath Malor. I think, for $5. Thank you. Was going to give my first ever super chat for EFAP, but after the MVP play from last weekend, you have more than deserved it. Peasants rise up.
I know it's ironic that Keemstar has made people go in for like communist rhetoric, given how rich he is. Eat the rich. That's the one instance where I'm actually kind of in favor of it.
Hi, Kira, for $10. Thank you. This is a quote from the original Crow. Jesus Christ, stop me if you've heard this one. Jesus Christ walks into a hotel. He hands the innkeeper 3 nails and he asks, "Can you put me up for the night?" And that was delivered excellently by Brendan Lee.
They repurposed it, and Shelley gives the joke in the facility. It was the
I missed that. Does she really?
Yeah, it was like
Gross.
what tea is hard to swallow? Reality.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Gross.
It's the best one. They couldn't do like here's some Moriarty, because that's what people brew. Like we couldn't get better than reality. Good.
She's a drug addict, man.
Yeah,
Humor's not her forte.
This was the next subject. I did kind of split the Acolyte up, but yes, did anyone take a gander at this Rolling Stone article by these fucking clowns?
I saw a theory talk about it today.
Well, I just released a whole video mansplaining, and I had a wonderful time just letting that off the leash, just purely mansplaining why this thing didn't work. It was great fun. I'll read you my favorite tweet from Sawyer.
Yes, please do.
I broke down crying about the Acolyte tonight. I've been grieving privately for days, and I needed to let it all out. The show means more to me than words can say. It made me feel seen as a female Star Wars fan and as a woman who was taught by society to hide her rage. That's my favorite tweet.
God.
She needs to just hide herself from society after that post,
Well,
period.
she's probably better at hiding her rage because she has to do it infinitely more than you.
But yeah, forget Seneca Falls and the suffragettes and the multi-generational narrative of female liberation and empowerment. The cancellation of a space fantasy show is the one that broke her.
That moment where she strangles her father figure who did nothing wrong. That's the like peak of female empowerment right there. Like I can understand why she's so very, very upset that got cancelled.
With
I love how
power
it
she
went
didn't
from,
have the entire season. Just pulled them out
Yeah.
of nowhere. She's suddenly a Sith Lord.
I love how the dialogue, the narrative changed from if you don't like it, don't watch it. It wasn't made for you. To a week later, why didn't you come out and watch it? Why didn't you come out and support it? So I love
It's that Eric Andre
over
meme.
again.
It really is. It's that Eric Andre meme, the one where he's shooting the guy and then going,
Why would Star Wars fans do this?
Why would Star Wars fans do
It's
this?
the Charlie's Angel meme all over again. Like this white males, this movie's not for you. And then a week later, why are white males not watching this movie?
Yeah, I like how
It's so
our
stupid.
power keeps fluctuating. We go from your reactionary dinosaurs, Tata, thank you next, to we become this kind of Caucasian mafia that can do hit jobs on cultural products. So we seem to our power levels fluctuate depending on the circumstances.
It's madness.
The funny thing, like this article is kind of an interesting one because you would expect, given the headline and the choice of leading photo, that it thinks the Acolyte is the best of Star Wars. Freudian slip, is the best of Star Wars. And that it did not survive the worst of its fans. The article never actually even makes the case that the Acolyte is the best of Star Wars. It actually mentions one or two, like very, very broad brush, like the tamest criticisms you could possibly make of the Acolyte, but it mentions them. So it never really establishes that this is what it thinks the best of Star Wars is. Its argument is essentially, Acolyte, yeah, it was a thing. It's been cancelled. It didn't do very well. It was a bit wrong in a couple of places. But the real problem is that a minority of Star Wars fans can't accept any story that is different from what they like. That makes them the worst of it, and they are the ones who refuse to let Star Wars grow up and evolve, as though the Acolyte is growing up and evolving of Star Wars, as opposed to dumbing down and being very childish. So it doesn't even know precisely what it's saying. It's just really a very like stock template article. If you ask an AI ChatGPT, like, write me your average media article about Star Wars in the year 2024, it would be, Here is vague tie-in to current show. Here is 3/4 of article saying how evil racist fans drove Kelly Marie Tran off the internet, which never happened. And that's what this article goes on to do. It's such a cut and paste thing. And you know it's just there because it was evidently doing numbers in terms of reactions online. So Rolling Stone thought, we'll get in on that and we'll just use the template stock form of the argument, which everyone else has already used. No one's really going to read it, but loads of people will retweet it and people will talk about it on their streams. So we are now contributing to their business model.
Damn it. Because
I know.
I used to be a Rolling Stone subscriber. I
Wow.
liked Rolling Stone back in the day.
I think what would be really fun would be to watch. I maybe I'll do this tomorrow. I would like to find some positive reviews of the Acolyte. I'm genuinely interested to watch somebody tell me what they liked about it, and like actually, you know, in writing terms, like what was the plot, what were the characters that you liked, and what was their journey and arc that you thought was so amazing. Like because thus far the only thing I can find, and it's surface level research admittedly, but the only thing I can find is the fans are bad. It's really not a defense of the show, it's an attack on critics, or just that it's, you know, sweeping statements, it's epic, it's historic, it represents whatever. Like I've yet to really look for and find someone really breaking down like what they think is so incredible about this television show.
You're not going to find it. You're not going to find it. The people who praise these type of shows, they don't look at writing to that sense. They don't look at the mechanics and the story structure. They tell you what they liked, how it made them feel, and they blank out the rest. They fill in so much story. They do the writing for the writers. Headcanon is OP. It's insane. They just fill it up. Like anyone who could think that Smilo and what's her face is meaningful in any way, shape, or form. She fell in love in like an afternoon after he killed all her friends.
Yeah.
How the fuck do you do that in a story without actually showing? That takes years. That takes storytelling.
Dude, did you see him step out of the water?
Yeah, he's got to be hung like a freaking Clydesdale. I mean, that's the only explanation.
The real explanation, as Leslie Headland explained, if you just listen to her, is that it's the fact that he was wearing feminine clothing and cooking for her, which she described as being very femme-coded. And so that was
you
the
would
key.
just read all of the interviews and watch all the interviews after the show, you would understand what the show was really about.
That's
For instance, you could have heard Leslie Headland describe the scene where, you know, when she throws the lightsaber and it cracks on the rock and then you can see inside the lightsaber. You would know if you read the interviews that Leslie Headland consciously made that a metaphor for the penis, because they've always viewed the lightsaber as a phallic object. So in that moment, you are looking inside a penis. That is what she said. That's not even me memeing. That is what she said in an interview. All kinds of things like that. And then you sort of have to go through the rest of it and wonder how many other bizarre metaphors have been coded into the entire script. But most people's defenses of it, if they're not, I've not even seen that many headcanon ones. There was one very sort of chunky one, which is someone of Tommen Baratheon's character and his decision to kill himself for doing nothing wrong. Someone was saying how it resonates so much with them because, and then they gave this huge list of their own psychological comorbidities. Right. And it's like, this is not in the character. This is you projecting onto the character. The character isn't you. You do understand this basic divide that most 4-year-olds know. But lots of people, the rest of it is just meta. It's just like, it's a diverse show helmed by a queer woman. There's got women in the leads. It's taken Star Wars in a bold, new, progressive direction. It's like, none of that's about writing quality. These people don't care. They are not interested in that. It's just key jangling and meta diversity stuff.
It requires so much headcanon for it to function. It's just too much. It's
it requires you to write for them. Like,
and we're here watching like, hello, none of that was in the show. Torben wanted to go home and nobody knows why. Did he have a family member? Is there some mission he had to accomplish? Is there some illness? Is there anything? Give me something. He literally panicked.
Eating space chicken, and there was a really Coruscant has great pho, and he was like, I got to get back to that. So
seriously. Like there could be a million reasons why someone wants to go home. You can do something with it.
Well, that was actually one of my suggestions for that very scene was because, you know, she's inside Mother Anus Eyes is inside his mind at that moment. So like she could just narrate for us what his reasons are and give him a reason. But given the show is very intent on this forbidden love angle between Osha and Smilo, why not have her say, I know who you left behind on Coruscant? Give the impression that he's actually in some illicit relationship he wants to get back to. That's the Jedi's laws prohibiting him from being who he really wants to be. And then in desperation to get back, breaking the Jedi code, he breaks it twice, and it's the guilt at doing that, which leads him eventually to yeet himself. But that's not there, and it would be so easy to fix in a line.
That's what's frustrating. It writes itself. Like we can, as we're watching, we can fill it in the blanks and understand what should be done. Because like even as you're going into the second flashback, you're thinking, okay, this is it. This is your opportunity to see what to show what the Jedi did, how they fucked up, and they show Anastasia torturing him even earlier this time. It's insane. It's not like there is any like any threat or of any kind. They make it even worse. This is their one opportunity to justify their whole position, and they fuck it up even worse. Like
Not only
the
does
entire show is a disaster.
Yeah, not only does Torben's objective of wanting to go home not really make that much sense, but the action he takes doesn't make sense either. Because if you notice, in the moment before he rushes off to the witch's fortress, they get told that the council doesn't want them to take the twins, and they're basically told to fuck off and go back to Coruscant. And he's just like, oh, okay, well, we'll go take the kids now. So, yeah,
It's stupid. And when he rushes off, Soul goes with him, and then they decide to climb together. It wasn't even Torben's fault. He literally deflected some like laser bolts. He did nothing. He got strangled by a Wookiee. Should have
Listen,
died.
guys, you guys don't understand modern masculinity. If you've been eating Wookiee cooked space chicken and working with a metal detector on a bland looking planet, then eventually you're going to get wound up, and that tension's going to explode where you just jump on a speeder out of nowhere and just head off towards some abandoned mining installation.
Yeah, the only one who was acting like a man was Trinity. Like completely, she was the manliest one there. Soul's crying the whole time, and Torben's lost his fucking mind because he wants to go home. It's just so sad to see.
I also don't like the idea that that a lot of these devotees of the Acolyte have been complaining about, that there's somehow an onus on people that even if you don't like the show, it doesn't appeal to you, or even if you have misgivings or you can't see yourself in any way on the screen, and it's a marketplace, that there's somehow an onus on you to support it anyway, and for some wider abstract sociological cause of improving things. That's not how a market works. It's not what entertainment is.
All right, you have to watch the show so that the weird autistic lesbian person that's enjoying it can enjoy a second season. All 10 of them.
Yeah.
This idea of trying to see yourself in every character and like identify with this, I think it's absolute horseshit. It drives me fucking nuts because I find it so interesting. One of the characters in all of fiction that I identify the most with is motherfucking Tyrion Lannister. He's a Caucasian dwarf. Like it has nothing to do with it. You know what I'm saying? And like I was thinking of House of the Dragon season 2. It's interesting. The two characters, if I had to pick, that they're most worthless and boring, are both black with dreads. Fucking Adam and Reyna. I'm just like, you would think, oh, but they look like you would. No, they were shit. I want her to get eaten by a dragon, and I found him boring. So it's meaningless. No one gives a shit.
I've seen probably like hundreds of martial art films from the 70s onwards out of Hong Kong and whatnot. I've never seen myself even remotely represented, but I've always had the greatest of times. So
it's insane. I've never watched Jackie Chan movie and thought, oh, this would be better if he was black. Like it doesn't work that way. And I'm really tired of that being pushed into storytelling.
Same here. I think identifying with people because they look like you is very superficial. Like I identify with characters who have like honor, who have virtues, values, and an ideology that I align with, not because they look like me. I don't care what they look like.
Yeah, and we've all had subjects like this. We've had the subject brought up in so many different conversations over the years, and you have a million different examples, and they still don't get it. It's insane. Like Deadpool and Wolverine didn't make $1 billion because they're white. They did it because those two people are popular and entertaining, and people wanted to see this movie. It's just, I get it. I knew that movie was going to make so much money. Just sick of it. I've been sick of it for years now, since like this whole YouTube thing started for me. It's just so insufferable.
There's something to like when we were kids, like as boys, we look at superheroes and you want to be them. But then as girls want to inject themselves into things. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like
it's ironic if you think about it.
Yeah.
What I mean, I know it gets brought up all the time, but there was that Lego study that encapsulates that. That pretty much just, I mean, that was they funded it and they found that evidence that, you know, they watched a bunch of kids and they were like, this is how kids behave. The boys almost always behave this way. The girls almost always behave this way. And as a business, they were like, cool, we're going to make money with that knowledge. We're not going to pretend that's not real. Exactly. We're going to roll with that and not try to change what is clearly ingrained human behavior from very young age. We're not going to pretend that's not real. We're just going to work with that and try to make money. And awesome. That's great business practice.
And they also showed as well that you don't have to. It doesn't have to be a zero-sum game between those two things. Because if I remember the Lego study correctly, like Lego was predominantly a boys' brand, and they wanted to find out why that was, and they realized that like when they were asking young girls why they weren't so interested in Lego, it was because there was nothing to do inside the structures they were building. Boys were very keen on building great like towers and shit and diggers and whatever, like things you can use, and girls wanted something to do inside the house that's been built. And so they thought, well, actually that's quite easy to do, and we don't have to play the girls division off against the boys division because no one loses from just adding more to the whole. Whereas at the moment it very much seems to be, yeah, in order to shift a particular IP more toward a female audience, you have to stop doing things that we know work for the male audience. No one would lose if the Acolyte had really good characters as well as being diverse.
Exactly.
But
strong male characters. They're gonna
Yeah.
destroy your show. They make it think they make it seem as if any man having agency or a backbone is just gonna shred their characters. When really it's gonna make them look stronger to be able to bounce off them. Like I described that Jon Snow. I think I would recommend it for people even out of context. You have no idea who these people are. Jon Snow and Daenerys' first meeting. It's the one really well written part of their relationship. And that's what happens when you have a strong man meeting a strong woman. They're going to clash and then have to understand the differences. You can't just nerf one to buff the other. It's fucking disgusting. And that's what they eventually ended up doing. It's part of the reason I want to reference that in particular, because Jon gets obliterated with this exact same thing. But the first scene is like perfection in terms of explaining both different thought processes, and they just don't do that anymore. Like even in it's I think it's such a great example, and I just wish more stories would try to benefit from that.
You know, speaking of this situation,
Oh no!
Oh my god!
What is that? That looked like Ash from Ash looked like in Romulus, man. Just add some milk.
good lord, I mean, it's Star Wars, so I was like, that's a good time to bring that up.
I love how Ubisoft is in a place that I made a video right after they announced this game, and there was no gameplay yet, and I drew a bunch of conclusions, and I don't have to take back any of them. I was 100% spot on from the jump, because the way EA work, no, I'm sorry, that's BioWare. The way Ubisoft works now and the way Star Wars as a property is being handled, it's all so incredibly predictable. It's amazing.
I got a text from a friend of mine, and he doesn't care about any of this stuff. He doesn't like, he's busy. He doesn't inject himself into the social wars here, but he texted me because he was watching a video about this, and he said, I'm watching a stream right now, and not only is the main character a gender-bent Han Solo ripoff, but the game looks like it can be played on the PS3. Does it sound accurate to anybody?
They've
That
toned
looks like,
down everything in the final shipment. I don't know why they decided to do that, given the amount of money that's gone into this game, but that's what Ubisoft decided to do. I think this is also a slightly manipulated photo. Grums is known for doing that.
That looks like Robot Chicken Star Wars.
Yeah, I wouldn't
She
say
still looks
Kern
bad, but she doesn't look that angular in some places.
Kern's not the reliable list of sources, but no, I've been following this game, and it looks like trash, and it continues to look like trash. And it's launching. I think it launched today or tomorrow for everyone who fucking paid more. It is garbage. It is minimum viable product at its worst.
I can download this right now by the looks of things. Maybe I'll do that.
I did see a short clip of it, and it looked like an incomplete project from 2008.
It's terrible. I was watching Mr. Maddie talk about it today, and it looks empty. The enemies are terrible. The gameplay is apparently awful. Like, the only thing that anybody can ever say about it is just like the vibes feel nice, like walking around the Star Wars underworld, being the outlaw, that kind of thing. Like, it's cool feeling apparently when you're doing that, but then when you're actually playing the video game, it does not feel good to play. So, which is like 90% of what you're going to be doing. And it's garbage. Ubisoft is a great company.
Vibes can never save a video game. Like, the gameplay is so essential. It's like they forget that. It's so critical.
Cynic, have you gotten the image that I sent you of the before and after on Twitter? They uglified the actress who does the voice for Star Wars.
Oh my!
She is smoking hot. Look
She's
at the comparison
hot,
there.
yeah.
I don't know if you can bring it up, but yeah.
Yeah, hang on. I'll try here. Sorry, I know that this is the most user-friendly fucking streaming service ever, but I am much more of an old man than even Mr. Brown. So give me a second here.
No, if you guys think TV and movie entertainment is bad, the video game space is just as bad. Star Wars is out this week, and then I think in a couple of months the new Dragon Age game is out that looks like it honestly looks like a mobile game. It looks like a Fortnite clone. It's a downgrade.
They're giving away $10 coupons for everyone that pre-orders.
It looks god awful. I mean, it has less functionality than a game that I would have played literally 20 years ago. It's mind-boggling the downgrades that we're seeing in quality in this stuff, and they just kind of figure the audience is just that it's the same thing that we're seeing in all like the shows and movies we're talking about, where they're just like, well, it says Dragon Age, and that's a popular franchise, so you fuckers are going to buy it. And sadly, and I think enough people will. I'm terrified about that. I would love to just see BioWare get shut down for putting out garbage like that. It's insulting.
There's still I think like now we're seeing that biggest she's so hot. Oh my god.
That is the left to right difference.
That's some bullshit.
Why did they do that?
It's one of the worst examples of uglifying. Nori in Rings of Power, the stupid little hobbit girl. If you've seen her in real life, she's fucking hot. But they made her look like a little fucking sack of shit in the show. I don't know why they do that. They did it to Rose Tico as well. Like she's Kelly Marie Tran is a pretty woman, and they made her look like crap. I don't know why they keep doing that.
Yeah. And that frame is like in the middle of an animation. Like that's the worst looking one. But if you watch the original trailer for that, it's still like every bit of where that comes from still looks terrible. It's janky and everything about it was trash.
I'm trying to download it just to confirm the fact, but Epic Games being Epic Games, I can't.
And minimizing Sydney Sweeney's boobs.
That was another one I was going to ask.
Unbelievable.
You know who doesn't minimize Sydney Sweeney's boobs? Sydney Sweeney.
That's why
he does not.
She's bringing boobs back. Like
God bless.
Yeah. But you're right, Echo. Like they just strangled her boobs in that movie. Like no, they were just taped down or something. I don't know.
Unbelievable.
Sex sells. It's a fundamental
same thing
part
with
of
Daphne Keane too. Like what? You guys have assets. What are you doing?
Yeah.
I mean, Daphne Keane makes a bit of sense because we did see her as a kid in the last movie. So it's like
that's a good point.
And that one makes a little more sense.
Those ones are delicate. Like Macy Williams' sex scene in Game of Thrones was one of the worst mistakes ever because we watched her from a kid growing up. She was everyone's little sister. We do not want to see a sex scene with her ever. So it's just there's certain things you got to be careful with. And I think X-23 is another one of those. Like, I get that. But when it comes to people like Sydney, like, come on, let them fly. Like, she's got these.
Let them be, man.
Let them float, man.
It's why Sweeney's been cast as, I think, Black Cat.
She's comfortable with her own body, and it's refreshing. That's it. She's not this supermodel, but the fact that she's cool, she's hot, and she's like comfortable, that gives you like an extra 3 points. That's just how it works.
Yes, anyone who follows her Instagram is a huge fan. I assure you. So.
There was a Daily Beast article saying, Sydney Sweeney's boobs are not actually that big. And then on Twitter, it had readers added context.
We disagree.
Community noted. Yes, they are.
Yes, they are. They're really nice tits. Like, they just are. Like, it's just, I don't know. She's not the first person in Hollywood to have a pair of tits, but, like, she's the first person in a long time to be so open and comfortable with them. And it's refreshing for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I love the community notes. Have you seen the IGN article where they're like, for the new Batman game, Batman goes around beating poor people, and then the community notes are like, Batman does not beat up poor people; he beats up criminals.
Yeah, fact. You can indeed be poor and a criminal at the same time.
It just makes me think of a Simpsons episode where Krusty the Clown is trying to flog Krusty Burgers in a commercial, and he says at the end of the commercial, "I love you," and then at the end says a little voiceover saying, "Krusty the Clown does not necessarily love any of you."
Yeah. I remember with that episode. Yeah,
Krusty is one of like most underrated characters in all of the Simpsons. He's so just perfect. Every scene with him is spot on.
I wanted to bring this up too. Disney is having a banger year, unlike last year. More because of quality in a smaller quantity. They are dominating, I guess, 70% plus of the box office this year, and it's mostly due to these two films here that both crossed $1 billion.
Yeah.
Well, there's nothing new here, just IPs, but
Yes, there's nothing new, but there were just IPs last year, and they took a giant shit right in their own bed over and over and over. So,
do we
the
think
stark difference.
Mufasa is going to do well in December? Does
No,
anyone...
oh, that looks hideous.
No,
I'm
that is
with
just
no.
like, come
And
on.
It looks
that's a
like they're
horrible
gonna
idea.
do a Scar was the nice guy, and
Yes.
Mufasa probably did
Yeah.
something like they're gonna do a wicked twist
Oh
again.
my
Like
God,
really,
no.
he actually wasn't
Don't
bad.
stick at
But
that
it's
trope.
Mufasa's
Are
fault.
you joking with that? Like that's
Please sympathize with the villain.
why do they keep doing that? Like Cruella, the freaking doggo killer. Like
Yeah.
they keep doing this. I don't want to hear about Scar's backstory and his sympathy. Fuck Scar.
Have you
He's a
seen the
villain. Leave
trailer?
it be. I don't. I'm not even
Trailer's
touching that.
hideous.
He's Mufasa's not even like he's the real heir, and Mufasa's an adopted kid that Scar found and took in out of the kindness of
Oh
his
my
heart.
God.
Mhm.
And somehow we don't know yet, but somehow like they fight together against something, and then the movie's gonna have they didn't give it away in the trailer for once. They didn't actually give the entire movie away, but yeah, it starts out with Scar as like the rightful heir, and he finds this other lion and takes him in, and that's Mufasa. And so somehow they're gonna have to bridge the two movies, and Mufasa's gonna have to betray him somehow.
Yep.
I hate what you're telling me right now.
I
Same
actually,
here.
It's
that's
a
what I'm
horrible
saying. I'm like
trailer.
speechless.
I mean,
what the
it's
fuck? Like
it's the era
make
of
your-
bad guys good.
Go make your stupid little movies, but stop trying to change the past. Why do they have to fucking like? And if they had the talent to do so, I'd be down for it. But they don't, and it's just frustrating. This pattern, man.
They
Yeah.
can't
Make
make
it
anything
real.
new without deconstructing
Yeah,
something from the past.
Mulan was the big
Yeah.
one for me because like Mulan is like a perfect film. Mulan '98, by the way, the first one, perfection, and it's a blueprint right there. Just copy it, scene for scene. It's right fucking there. But within 2 minutes of that movie, I'm like, they make it clear that they have no idea what they're doing. And she's like some Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon bullshit, jumping off the roof. And like, I gave up on the entire Disney remake thing from then. Like, you don't even understand what made your classics classic. That's just criminal.
They have a giant poster of Jacques Derrida on the wall with a big heart on it. They just fucking love that guy.
What's the Oh, sorry.
No,
Go
you're
ahead,
good.
Greg. No, I just want to. What is the big release schedule for 2025 aside from Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four?
Oh,
that's Snow
Captain
White.
America, Toy Story, whichever
White.
number they're up to, Toy Story, whatever, and yeah, Snow
5,
White.
I think.
5.
Yeah.
Oh, Snow White! I forgot about that.
Oh yes. I mean, no, I'm not excited for my channel performance.
Yeah.
When that- no.
I'm not going to capitalize on that piece of shit.
I was, you know what? I was looking up stuff about The Crow, and I thought I was rewatching the old one. I was like, man, that's really reminds me of Spawn. And I looked up when that was, and it looks like that might happen next year with.
Oh
Jamie
no!
Foxx.
Oh no! Yes, it does really remind me of Spawn too. But Todd McFarlane has been saying that movie's going to get made since 1998. It's because of him that movie is never going to fucking see the light of day. It will when he's dead, and I don't want him to die, so I don't want to see this movie because he's just a brilliant, great person. But god damn it, is he stubborn, and he just he's gone through so many things of like this movie will not get made unless I direct it. He's never directed anything in his life. He's never written anything good in his life either. He comes up with really good concepts and then should give the script to someone else to actually fill in all the details. And like slowly but surely he's giving up creative control, but he will never give up enough to get this movie made. I really don't.
Is that what it is? Because Spawn is one of the coolest characters ever.
I know.
Yes.
Look
So
what
it
happens when he
is.
does give up creative control. You get the HBO animated series, which was the first season was brilliant.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So fucking
But
good.
I do feel for him though, because we see what happens when people don't have like super creative control. Like Sanderson didn't have apparently enough control over Wheel of Time to not have Perrin be married and then kill his own wife in the first 2 minutes of the show. Like, so if you don't have a lot of control, you end up with weird shit like that. So I feel for him a little bit. It sucks that it's not getting made, but I do understand when you're like, no, I'm not, this is my baby, and I'm not going to watch it get Rings of Powered.
No, I do too, but he had more control with the 1997 Spawn movie. He had a ton, which is why it came out with shit. And then he didn't have a lot of control with the HBO Max, or well, Max didn't exist then, but he didn't have a lot of control with the HBO animated series, and that was pretty brilliant, especially the first season. So
how did the One Piece guy, because the guy who made One Piece apparently was like a big part of creating the show. Like he was all over that. Like what's how do you, I don't know, like how does the control work? Because it seemed like he was really, really a big part of the creation of that. And same with George R. Martin. He's a part of the best seasons of Game of Thrones. He was a big part of it. And then once he left, it started to slowly fall off. So it's a delicate balance, but I wonder, like, I don't know, what's the best way to handle that?
I think, well, those guys were hyper controlling of the actual thing they're adapting anyway, right? Todd McFarlane created a great concept with Spawn, a great like starting point, and he was a brilliant artist when it comes to the visuals. But when it came to the actual story, all the things that made it good, like in the HBO series, that was fleshed out by Alan Silvestri. It was not fleshed out by him because he's really not that good. He wrote the first 50 issues of Spawn, and honestly, if you go back and watch him, it's why some of my writing's complete shit, because when I was a kid, I was like, Spawn's so cool, and I like wanted to be like Todd McFarlane. Then when I in my 20s, I was like, oh, these are really bad.
Didn't we
These
all?
are not good.
Yeah, you wanna master your craft, but understand your limits. You can't be good at everything. So hyper focus on the things that you're passionate for and you actually have talent for, and understand you have to outsource certain things. Like I've always been good for ideas, but I can't draw. I'm not like the best editor or anything like that. It's just, you got to understand it's so much better as a team when you have you find that one person who understands your ideas. Like I've always wanted someone who can draw so they could take my ideas out of my head and put them on the paper. And you can't, I'm not stupid and delusional enough to go and try to draw myself just because I have great ideas. And that sounds like what that guy's stuck in, like not being willing to give up reins, give up control of his
idea.
I
think
like,
hear him more to like if Stan Lee, if he was still alive, like if he was the person with creative control of a Spider-Man movie. Yes, he created Spider-Man. He came up with the brilliant concept of this incredible, endearing character. But there's no fucking way I'd want Stan Lee to write a script for a Spider-Man movie. That would be insane.
I'd want him to be a part of it so he can have like, what's Peter thinking? Get inside his head. Those other things are going to be a big part of it. Like one of my favorite stories about Civil War is that the Russo brothers would come and talk to Robert Downey Jr. directly and like about the script and have an understanding of what he would be like. No, Tony would do this, Tony wouldn't do that. To get inside the character's head and have an understanding of what would work before they write it. They don't do that anymore. They barely even like have a script ready when they're filming. It's insane. The difference in terms of quality control and passion is just mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Well, this stuff is always fascinating to me because of the interesting ironies and tensions. Like Gene Roddenberry was famously a pain in the ass when it came to Star Trek, like the films and that kind of thing, even though he's the one who was, the kind of abiding spirit of the whole thing. And we talked about the Never-Ending Story before, and, Michael Ende, who wrote that, and he absolutely despised what they'd done to it. And you get Stephen King with The Shining, who loathed the film and thought it was a strange thing. So I love these those dynamics are really fascinating to me.
Completely agree. So interesting. Like I want to go.
I like the guy who wrote The Witcher asked about the series, and he said, "It's not the worst thing in the world. It's not the best thing." But I guess maybe you could just chalk that up to him being a phlegmatic and morose Polish guy.
And even Tolkien, if he was alive, would have issues with the Lord of the Rings, I'm sure. Like it's hard to nail people's perspective like perfectly. That's why I think the combination of it is best. Like the first 4 seasons of the Game of Thrones, some of the best television I've ever seen in my life. And it's part of the combination. It was Dan and Dave when they still gave a fuck. It was George helping, with the oversight. And that's when everything was flowing. And I just think finding some combination of that is the best way forward.
Tolkien's a really interesting one because you can actually find there was back in I think it was the 1970s. This is like before the Ralph Bakshi animated version. Someone pitched to him a movie by basically a novice screenwriter, a novice filmmaker called Zimmerman, I think his name was. And they sent Tolkien the spec script for it, and Tolkien gave very detailed multi-page notes and a breakdown of what he thought was acceptable, not acceptable. And it's a really fascinatingly useful resource when it comes to, say, Rings of Power. And anybody who says, well, obviously you have to make changes in adaptation, Tolkien would be fine with that. You can sort of compare them against the notes he actually left, and you can read very clearly that he would very much not be fine with them whatsoever. So I'm making quite a lot of use of that in this big Rings of Power video I'm doing at the moment. But it's interesting for the other side of it because, you know, Tolkien is not a director and he's not a screenwriter. And so there are going to be things that he will criticize, which probably would have been necessary in any film version of that. That's certainly true of the Peter Jackson films, for example. But the main criticisms he would leave were things like misunderstanding the point of a character, or like the interconnectedness of everything that happens. The massive importance of the thematic, not allegorical message, but the thematic point the story is trying to convey. And even very small, minute details like misnaming Lambus bread as like a food additive, I think the guy called it, which pissed Tolkien off because he hates that sort of scientification of anything he creates. So it's always a bit of a balance, and there's always that death of the author thing that comes in. But understanding what people's strengths are is absolutely key. Not all authors are going to be very good with actual visual storytelling. They're very good at narrating certain things, which you can't do one for one when it comes to an adaptation. And an adaptation has by nature to be way shorter anyway. You can't do a whole book length version in film. So there are going to have to be compromises that are made. But it's trying as best you can to be faithful to your sources is the key thing. And that's what Game of Thrones did at the beginning, because there was source material to be faithful to. And toward the end, when there was no source material to be faithful to, obviously it went completely off the rails because D&D had to create something for themselves, which they were not very good at.
This is the thing about those guys. There's scenes in the early seasons to prove that they did care, because there's scenes that they incorporated that weren't in the book. Robert and Cersei's conversation about did you ever really love me even for a second is a phenomenal scene. Wasn't in the book. All the scenes with Arya and Tywin, fantastic, weren't in the book. They gave a shit at some point, and then they didn't. And then we got she's my queen, I don't want it. Fucking Daenerys is burning children. It's all fucked. And that show, I remember the Iron Throne, I was like face palming for like 20 minutes after, just like 10 years of my life, like just wasted on the show. I've never been like sucker punched and betrayed by a show like that. And even this is after TLJ, mentally prepared for Game of Thrones after TLJ. Even that, I still wasn't prepared for what they did. So it's inexcusable when you have source material and someone with the mind of George R. Martin, and you couldn't figure it out to put it together for one of the greatest shows ever. It's just frustrating, man. I've watched Game of Thrones like a million times, man. It sucks.
Does anyone else think that 1970s Lord of the Rings film was actually fucking rad? I love that film.
the animated one?
I think visually it's a banger.
That was my introduction. That's the first one I saw. I was like, man, this is weird, but I like it.
Love that thing.
That was fun. Yeah. I like that way more. I liked it more than The Hobbit and The Rings of Power. I'll give you that. Yeah.
Brooks, to your point, what makes the ending of Game of Thrones all the more tragic is D&D rushed it to work on a Star Wars trilogy that
they
ended
never
up getting cancelled. Yeah.
And for me, it's for anyone who says it's not the worst ending, I would challenge them with, in 4 episodes, they destroyed the plot, the world building, the characters, the themes, the point of the show. It's every aspect of that story was deconstructed and destroyed, and it's the type of damage and the speed in which they did. It was a speed run of taking your favorite characters, making them completely be out of character, and just destroying them. The longest video I ever made. What? Sorry.
Oh, it's not as if like the like all the 95% that had come before retained its integrity, and then you had a crap ending. It's like the crap ending retroactively devalued everything that had come before. And
winter is coming. Anytime someone says that, I want to fucking punch my screen because you made it completely worthless. It retroactively makes the entire story almost pointless. I didn't think that was possible.
I still don't know how they got the chains around that ice dragon. I still don't know how they got the chains around it. Still pisses me off.
It's the thing that House of the Dragon struggling with as well, because I think as good in terms of self-contained quality as season 1 in particular was, season 2 less so, but still good. Yep. You have the vision when they look forward and it's to the Song of Ice and Fire and you see Daenerys with the dragons around her and you think, oh my God, they're tying it. Oh no, they're tying it in. Oh.
That's what I said at the opening of season 1 of House of Dragon. It opens with Rhaenyra flying with Cyrax over King's Landing. I'm like, why you want to remind us of Daenerys? Like, immediately. I don't want to be thinking about Dany. Like, get that out of my head. And the fact that it's permanently attached to Game of Thrones will always cripple House of the Dragon, because anyone who's interested in the White Walkers in this show will be like, oh, check out Game of Thrones. No, don't do it.
Yeah.
Not only
House
will
of
you
the
not get a
Dragon.
satisfying payoff, but there's spoilers for House of the Dragon within Game of Thrones. Joffrey literally tells Rhaenyra's whole story. Like, basically, you can find out how Rhaenyra dies from Joffrey just casually talking with Marjorie. So
That
I'd
is
avoid
assuming
him.
they keep it the same, though, right? I mean, I wouldn't put it past them to forget, as they famously did toward the end of Game of Thrones, that that's what actually is supposed to happen.
Okay.
You know, it's funny. A lot of people pick on that one. Dany kind of forgot. A question for anyone who even remembers: why did she kill Varys? Was it the poison?
Yeah.
Was it the letters? Was it like what? Why exactly did she kill him? They never
Well, he
addressed
clearly
it.
become brain dead like a season before that, so he wasn't really wasted by that
3
point. He was
seasons.
just
He hadn't done shit since like season 5. But
one of the most
for me,
interesting characters.
yeah, it's I don't know. I could talk for like literally 30 hours straight about Game of Thrones season 8. So let me just stop you. Derail this from you.
I had like a ton of other extra topics just in case we needed to get to them. I did want to do just one more out of that lot, though, because it's so funny to me, which is there's been a first peek of Ironheart, guys.
My girl,
So excited.
my girl. When is she back?
Releasing next year, baby.
That is
Oh my God.
hilarious.
I mean,
I'm
I am shocked that they're still pushing forward with this. I didn't anticipate they would.
please do
Like,
it. The
I
fact
thought
that
they
they're
were
going
gonna
through
can
with this and Agatha is like insane. But this is it. Rings of Power got me through the hump, but Ironheart is like the most success I've had on YouTube was because of this fucking moron. Like, this character is so stupid. I need more of her, please. She's so terrible. It's so bad, and I need more.
She's not a moron. She's AIT. Is a super
Oh
genius.
my
at
God. Yeah,
the
she's
age of
a
16.
genius.
Ironically, the smartest of all of them.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Question: who is Ironheart? Because I don't think I saw whatever.
Her name is actually Riri.
Her name is Riri Williams.
Riri
She
Williams,
was introduced in Wakanda Forever, and she is the ripoff Tony Stark now. She's a college student who built her own Iron Man suit in her spare time because her teacher said she couldn't do it. So fuck you. I'm gonna spite you and show you I can. And she literally fucking is the biggest piece of shit you've ever seen. Blows up cops for no reason and goes on to basically have no purpose in the movie whatsoever other than just being there so we can set up her movie like 3 or 4 years later. She's crap. Yeah,
Dang.
Thuggy Stark is actually a good way to describe it.
Yeah. She's
yeah.
Huey Freeman, which like they didn't understand that Huey was supposed to be not a good example, and they were like, "Hell yeah, that's the greatest character. We're gonna build everything around that." It's incredible.
Mhm.
It's the worst.
Her name is 90s insult. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
It's Riri Williams. Okay.
So Iron Man built his iron suit out of desperation to survive, and she built it out of spite.
Right, 100%.
Yes.
100%. I would just, it's insane the difference in quality between the two characters. And yeah, Riri should have never been made, and the fact that they're going through it this show is shocking to me. But give it to me, please.
Do we have a budget on this show at all?
Oh, well, considering the VFX there, it's definitely going to be north of 100 mil, I'm sure.
Oh,
just
all of their
wondering if
shows
that-
are.
Gonna have to be.
Yeah,
Has to
Somehow
be.
I'm wondering.
Secret
go ahead,
Invasion
sorry.
was somehow 200 million, and that
Oh God!
like
Forgot
what
about that.
effects? It was mostly just like there was mostly live.
It was on Amelia Clark's arm. All the other money went into that last shot.
Oh, last battle.
Fucking hell, that show.
That's the thing. Like House of the Dragon season 2 actually, over the span of 8 episodes or whatever, had actually less happen than in Secret Invasion. So that's an amazing feat.
And it looks so much better. The shots with the battle scene in episode 4, the sequence with Vermithor, it's breathtaking. Like, it's really, really phenomenal stuff in terms of just the superficial aspect. Like, even if you don't know what the fuck's going on, compare that to these shows that cost so much more. I just don't get it. Like,
Black Girl Magic.
Black Girl Magic. What the fuck is that? Can we talk about real quickly how Samuel Jackson has just shit on his own reputation over the last few years with fucking Captain Marvel and Secret Invasion and all these other
I mean,
things?
has he though?
What is
Because he
fucking
always
good?
signed up for any movie. He didn't
Yeah,
give
but-
a fuck.
Yeah, but
remember
he cares
Formula
about-
51?
Snakes on a plane.
Snakes
No,
on a
Snakes
plane.
on a Plane
What
was
the fuck?
great though. People loved that movie. Like one of my favorite theater experiences ever was people repeating the fucking lines of like, "I'm tired of these motherfucking snakes on this
I mean,
motherfucking
that's-
plane." The entire fucking audience did it like in unison, and it was great. That was fun. This is
That
embarrassing.
film had a great premise. There's a plane and there's snakes on it.
Yes,
come
I
on,
went
what's
to
up to that?
sign me up. That's it. You don't need crazy premises sometimes. I was there to watch Samuel L. Jackson yell at snakes and save lives. Like that's it. But I
Dude,
don't
that
know.
guy is everywhere. Yeah, he'd be in like Deep Blue Sea, Pulp Fiction, and get fucking nominated. Then he'd be in a Capital One commercial. Like, you
Django
fucking
Unchained?
God, bitch. And,
I-
like,
he-
he just
he was-
do it all.
He was willing to do all sorts of creative projects. That's what we love about him. But we've never seen him ruin a character that's essential to him. Like Nick Fury should be something that he would want to respect and hold on to. Because if anyone hasn't seen Secret Invasion, they literally ruin him in like a way I couldn't even describe. He was never even a good agent. Everything like was the Skrulls. They did everything for him. He was never even a good agent. He's a fraud. He was worthless. They invented a fucking wife to make him a bad husband. That's how fucking bad that shit is.
He's tired and old. And
old.
Yeah.
What is
like
the-
a race card on
what is the-
everything, and oh god.
Oh my god.
What is the saddest and most pointless backstory reveal? Is it him getting his eye patch because the cat scratched him, or Han Solo getting his name because someone called him Solo? Like, which is the worst out of those two?
The cat scratch thing just
The
makes
cat scratch,
him
yeah.
a
The cat
pussy.
scratch obliterates his whole mystique and the backstory that could have potentially been there. But what's funny is Secret Invasion makes the cat scratch seem so tame because it's so much worse. I wish we were back in the era of it. We just had to worry about the cat scratch. Just ignore that. Secret Invasion makes it like inexcusable. He's done. Like I never want to see him in a film again.
Samuel L's going through his Russell Crowe arc of not giving a shit about the movies he's in.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So with Ironheart, my understanding of the comics is it's actually worse than anything in the show. Because in the movie, we meet her and she's shaking another student down, extorting him for more money than they dealed on because she did his work for him, and she does people's work, for money at MIT. And has the sign on her door posted about how she can do this, which apparently no one's noticed. But apparently my understanding in the comics is that her teacher is like, you're so gifted, you're so smart, you can do whatever you want. And she says to the teacher, you need to tell me that I can't do things. Tear me down. And the teacher's like, why would I do that? I'm an educator. You can be anything you want. And she apparently demands for multiple pages, I'm told, that the teacher call her racist remarks and tell her she can never be as good as Tony Stark. And finally the teacher capitulates and is like, okay, whatever, you're never going to be shit. And then she's like, fuck you, I'll do whatever I want. And then goes on to be the most...
You pretty much
that's-
nailed it.
This is
Yeah.
the backstory you're filling in. I didn't even know that. I fucking made a
Yes,
video on
this
bitch.
is yes, that is essentially the backstory. She demands to
Oh
be
my
cut down.
God.
She demands to be oppressed.
That makes it even
And,
worse.
and what she says finally is she doesn't even cut her down. She just says, well, you can't ever be Tony Stark. Jedi, that's like someone saying, like, hey, movie cynic, you'll never be Jedi Brooks. Like, I know, I'm not.
I know.
Like, I
Fucking
cannot
what
be
the hell?
another human being. You're correct.
Why
Like,
can't they fucking understand this, man? Like, you have some type of respect. Like, what the fuck?
So
That's-
I actually learned more about that recently because I was watching just some guy talk about it, and apparently the creator of that adopted a black girl.
Brian
And
Michael
so
Bendis.
He
Yes,
was
sir.
like, "There's not enough black girls in comics," and proceeded to put the worst stereotypes ever in
Yeah.
this. Like, her family all got killed by drive-by shootings in
It's
in the hood.
Oh my god!
Everything.
It's like The
Gang
Blind
violence,
Side all
took
over
their
again.
parents down. Like, named her Riri. Like, I mean, I
Everything.
want to believe that his heart was in the right place, and he
Mhm.
pulled out every crazy stereotype that he could possibly think of, and it's like, this is how I'm going to represent. This is the world that I want for my daughter. Like, what the fuck is
That's
what
the
they
most
think-
liberal thing I've ever heard too. Like,
was gonna say,
he's
was
a
he by any
super
chance-
rich liberal white guy who adopts a black person and is like, I'm gonna help this kid, and goes through every stereotype they possibly
Yeah.
can.
It's
You
so
just know
fucking
that this guy
backwards.
is one of the white dudes for Kamala as well. It's like he sounds like the kind of person who'd be on
Absolutely.
that Zoom call.
there was a time in this special place called the 90s where like cultural things like this could be discussed in a rational way. I always like to reference The Hurricane with Denzel Washington, where you can like have cultural diversity issues discussed by adults. Now they try to just jam it in there and still get credit for it. Like Black Girl Magic shit is just fucking out of control.
Oh,
And this idea of just like Black storytelling being just list off all the tropes rather than show you a fucking human being.
yeah.
It just drives me nuts, man. Like, let's go back to Blade. He was cool as fuck. People liked him because he was awesome. It wasn't
Yep.
just, oh, he's black. It had nothing to do with it. It was both. And like, I've always preferred that. You need to have a character first. You can't just be like, they look like you, so it's going to be good. And this idea with Riri, like, that backstory that you just told me turns my stomach, because in the movie they just basically say, "Oh, my teacher never said I could do it, so I did it." To be young, black, and gifted, though, right? That's it.
They took the intro and just condensed it down into that single line, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I now getting the full story. That's sad. That's just not the way to do it. And there's going to be people that are going to grow up thinking that's the way to approach it. And that frustrates me.
Instead of having a character arc where you go from being flawed and then having to develop and mature and grow and thrive, you have a character arc where she's perfectly brilliant and then has to manufacture for her own amusement a character arc where she can prove people wrong and reaffirm her awesomeness.
Manufactured struggle, baby.
The hero's journey, like you're perfect from the very beginning, and the whole movie is about everyone else finding out, like realizing.
I like the endearing irony about the 90s now that between the end of the Cold War and before 9/11, there was what Charles Krauthammer described as the holiday from history. And so I think 90s angst has kind of got a lovely, almost endearing irony to it now. Like the angst and the compared to what we have now, it's like, no.
It's the Fight Club. We don't have any real struggle in the 90s. We didn't.
Bex, how did you know straight away that Fight Club female remake thing was a fake? Because I got fooled by that.
That's what I was about to bring up.
Yeah, I was fooled too.
They got me.
She did her research.
If Margot Robbie and Charlize Theron, I'm like, yep, that actually sounds legit, because like those would be the two girls you'd cast most likely. So they got me for sure.
Yeah.
I've learned from other streams, if you're not heard, it's your fault. Pipe up. That's what.
I just have nothing to say. You guys were talking about Star Wars, and I fucking hate Star Wars. I have nothing to contribute there, so I'm just chilling.
Well, we're all slowly coming around to your position, if that helps.
Yeah.
No, but that's those are all the topics, and we do have a bunch of super chats that we'll never get to if we don't do them now. So and I want to make sure everyone who sent in super chats gets heard, because we appreciate the shit out of you guys. So unless you guys have anything else to say about Riri Williams,
only that she's going to be next January's Echo. I think that's basically.
I think that's probably accurate. Yeah,
it's another one that I'm going to pencil into my video schedule.
I'm pretty sure my Echo videos got way more viewers than the actual show did, because like that video is not doing too badly, considering like the video was titled "The Most Pointless Thing I've Ever Made" because it's Echo, but it's somehow doing okay. The only thing like to say, I guess, in favor of Ironheart is that the suit doesn't look anywhere near as bad there as it looked in Wakanda Forever.
Yeah,
because there it was just that really awfully cheap Transformers thing, and there it looks like
N64.
more of an
it
Iron
looks
Man
like
thing.
a plastic toy in the movie. It looks terrible compared to like Tony in Iron Man 1 is flawless. He's just fucking gorgeous in that suit. Riri looks like crap. It looks like plastic.
It looks like Bomberman.
Yes,
it does. Yeah,
it's terrible.
I know that was announced a while ago, but I know they were touting that I think the villain or somebody in the show is non-binary. That was one of their big selling points too. So I don't know if that's still part of the show or not.
How is that a selling point, man? How is that a selling point?
Huge selling point.
Yeah, why do they that's one thing that just needs to die. The selling point of like our movie has gay characters in it, therefore it's good. There's a non-binary. Like, I think Rhaenyra's actress in House of the Dragon should just put that a bit. Like, nobody gives a fuck. She's a phenomenal actress. I don't care what she is, what she does. I don't care. That shouldn't be a selling point or anything. The whole non-binary, this binary shit. I don't get it. I just care about your talents and how you can perform. That's all I want to hear about.
Well, let's dive into these super chats. Mega Spidey Man for $5 fake. Little Platoon any other LOTR fans? Who's your favorite character and why them? Any hope for War of the Rohirrim? Did we do this last week? Mine's Gollum.
Something similar, I think.
Yeah.
It's so tricky with Lord of the Rings. I don't have a favorite character singular, because they all brilliantly represent what they're supposed to represent. So, like, no, honestly, I couldn't give you a favorite. I think almost every single person in there. Weirdly, the one I'm sort of least enthused by is Frodo, really, because he's just like, he whines. Sam is more heroic.
Dare you? How dare you? Frodo's a tragic character.
Frodo does brilliantly exemplify self-sacrifice for the greater good, and also how even the people with the noblest hearts can fail at the end. And then the irony, obviously, is that Gollum, in his last moment of fall, is the thing which, by an act of providence, makes the good happen and come to be. But you know, everybody fails at some point. Sam is like the embodiment of loyalty and perseverance for some person who is other than yourself. But you could go to even the minor characters. Denethor is a fantastic example of how people with good intentions, seeing like very select bits of the truth, and who are so desperate to do good, can be led astray and do ill. Saruman, someone who is so brilliantly clever and intelligent, can be so easily corrupted by the promise of more power and more mechanistic brilliance. I can't give you a favorite. They are all supremely well drawn. War of the Rohirrim, no. Don't trust a hope. It's forsaken these lands, etc. But I'm interested by it, but I don't expect anything of it.
I have two real quick. Sam, he's the only one who kept his eye on the prize throughout the entire thing. He's one of the best on-screen examples of friendship and what it's supposed to be and loyalty. He's fucking phenomenal in every way, and I love that character. Aragorn is one of the best examples of masculinity and leadership you're ever going to fucking see in your life. When he said, "We will not abandon the hobbits to torment and death," at the end of the Fellowship, and they decided to hunt the orcs, I wanted to jump out of my fucking seat, because the Fellowship breaking up was like a horror scene for me, and the fact that they were going to commit and like actually go after them was one of the most endearing things I'd ever seen on screen. I was fucking like all over this character. And Boromir is one of the best examples of the flaws and the good and the bad, the gray nature of man. That's the best way to put it. His story is just picture perfect. The idea of seeing someone go from this peak position of this glorious warrior in Gondor, and he comes to the fucking Fellowship and he's just a nobody. Nobody respects him, and everything he does is just strictly for the sake of his people. But to everybody else, he comes off as like such a villain. Like, he's such a complex character in that end. But if you watch him throughout the series, the things he does are so incredible, from training the hobbits to the care he shows throughout it, and him coming back to save them at the end was like, just, oh my god, those are moments that like just make movie magic for me. And like, Boromir's entire arc is just phenomenal. Go on for days.
Well, Boromir, Aragorn, and Frodo, to have three of the best character arcs in history from one franchise, like in the top 10, you'd have to say, to have three of them in the same franchise is incredible. Monumental achievement.
Yeah, mine was Boromir, Sam, and Aragorn. I do have a soft spot for Boromir because, as Jedi was saying, he like represents the strengths and weaknesses of humanity. To me, he was the most human character in all of it. And yeah, I loved his last line. I would have followed you, my brother, my captain, my king.
It's perfect. And if
Also,
you notice, Aragorn, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. I just want to add it. Aragorn wears his greaves throughout the rest of the series. He takes them in that moment. So if you notice, he's wearing them throughout it. The Gondor gauntlets. So just a cool.
Also, Sauron's hair across the Rings of Power, that has a great arc as well.
He was mine. I said Gollum.
Gollum is the best on-screen representation of addiction you'll ever see. You want to explain addiction to a child without introducing them to drugs? Show them Gollum.
Yeah.
He's perfect. He's an
Just
easy
yell at them. Is this what you want? Is this what you want to be?
Yeah, it's the themes in Lord of the Rings are just incredible. And just everything about it.
I did my Gollum impression last week, and it does kind of veer into meatwad territory.
Wait, what's meatwad? That
What
sounds
is
like
meatwad's
something I don't want
from,
to know.
Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
Yeah, Aquatine. Yeah.
With all respect, Echo is the person I least expected to know the answer if it was Aqua Teen Hunger Force. But
That's
there you
one
go.
of my
You're
favorite shows.
more-
I love that show.
I need to watch it. I've never seen a single episode. Evidently, I
Meatwad
need to.
get the honeys, G.
Yeah, dude. You can go back and forth like, or you can
Hey, not bad.
dude.
Not
That's
bad.
really good.
That's
good,
not
yeah.
bad at all.
They're similar. Mob jacket for $5. Thank you, sir. Remember the drugged mom scene from the original? This is referring to The Crow. Contrast that scene with this. Yeah, the drugged mom scene in the original was that actually worked because his powers were more mystical in the original film, and you didn't really get to know like what he could do. You kind of discovered it as the film went on, and that was the pleasure of that movie. Was like they didn't try and define something and then some like accidentally subvert it and fuck the film up. So he he kills a person that he's avenging or whatever, and then that person was with someone who's like on, I can't remember what they're on heroin or something. He grabs her arm, grabs her morphine. It's which is heroin, whatever, it's the same thing. And he grabs her arm and says morphine's bad for you, and like twists her arm and all the morphine comes out of her arm. It's pretty fucking cool, actually. And then compare it to this, which is kind of glorifying their drug use. Because they are just junkies.
Yeah, also like the drug scene with the mom in the 1994 one, like because that film was so dark in like the aesthetic, and literally every character aside from Eric, Sarah, and Albright, they were all just bad people. It was meant to be like, okay, Eric's not just this ruthless killing machine. He actually is a person with he knows what's right and what's wrong. So that's one of those few scenes that you see where he's not just using this power to exact vengeance. He's using it to try and make life better for the people that are still around from his previous life. So it's completely removed in this newer adaptation.
That half hour at the beginning of it has just reminded me. It's that show from last year, The Idol, where everyone thought they were so awesome and the debauched life of Hollywood. That's what it was reminding me of.
Yeah.
That was such a great line.
Yeah, the original's full of great lines. Wolf Spain for $1.99. How can you simultaneously be defanged and be a dick?
I don't know.
Thank you very much, sir. What?
I mean, well, dicks don't typically have fangs to begin with.
Okay. I just wanted to. I just got my.
I see this.
Yeah, I just fucking. That's crazy.
Hey.
I've never had the balls to file an appeal, and they just fucking backed out after 2 days. This is awesome.
Well done.
Well done.
So yes, anyone. I was worried my hot D drip video would go down, but if anyone hasn't seen it, the top 3 problems that kept the season back. I was really worried I was just gonna get pooped, but yes, I'm actually so thrilled. I'm gonna try it on other videos now. This is crazy.
God, the chat's just blown up with excellent lines from the original Crow movie. I'm not Skank. Skank's over there. Skank's dead. Yeah, that's so good. Our boy Sammy 3Pete for $1.99. Don't forget they make a SoundCloud rap together too. Yes, they do.
A genuine question. When did goth become looking like a bundle of sticks with like etch and sketch on your face? Because apparently that's the goth aesthetic that all the positive reviews are referencing. And I don't remember goth ever turning that direction whatsoever.
I don't know what to tell you. The best answer I can give you is Hot Topics responsible, and then David Ayer with Suicide Squad really kicked into overdrive. So he's the big final boss. He's why.
Okay.
Started with Carson on Total Request Live painting his nails, and it just
he had some nails black, didn't he?
Started downhill from
Yeah,
there.
but that makes sense, right? But it's just like now you like this is like a look that's been co-opted by rap more than it has goth. So I just I don't get the goth aesthetic. Yeah.
Anyone who's ever actually interacted with or had goth friends knows that they're actually some of the most chill people and loveliest people you'll meet. And that's the thing.
You got to be comfortable with yourself if you're gonna take on an aesthetic like that. So you're usually gonna be pretty chill. You know how many guys dressed up as Morpheus in the 90s? You guys probably remember that.
Yep.
Yes. How many dudes? Yeah, man. They were all pretty cool.
Until a certain incident.
Not a single one of them. Not a single one of them.
Weren't big in America for a while. Kind of a sore topic.
I definitely went to the third Matrix movie dressed as Neo, and then that movie was terrible.
Oh, that must have
I
been
was-
so disappointing. Watching him blind, all stumble around while you're in your fucking cosplay.
I didn't know he was. Yeah. I don't think I remember knowing he was going to be blind throughout basically the entire
That movie
film.
sucks, and he's stuck in a fucking sub. You're there dressed as
movie's
Neo like a
bad.
jackass, and he spends half the movie stuck in a subway.
Yeah,
Must have been
I
so-
had like the cool, like the whatever the faux priest costume that he had in the second one and everything.
look like a badass, man.
Look,
yeah.
I walked out feeling like a fucking.
Don't get me
moron.
wrong, Neo in Reloaded was one of the coolest things ever put this.
It was. I know.
So you're
The cool factor's
expecting
off the
that.
charts.
You're expecting that in the third one, and they just like he's fucking just stuck. Like, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
An interesting
one
twist
ginger-
on so it's just an interesting twist on the post-apocalyptic to have a gigantic, never-ending rave in a series of caves.
Yeah,
That's an
weird,
interesting
right?
twist
The
on
Zion
post-apocalyptic.
orgy, is that what you're describing?
Yeah.
We're all gonna die. Time to party. Let's
Yep.
fucking go.
Holy shit.
That one Ginger Draven for $4.99. Didn't expect the new Crow to be good, but worst movie of the year. Do I need to change my name, or is no one going to see this, let alone remember it? Yeah, Eric Draven. I don't think it's the worst movie of the year. I still am holding firm on Rebel Moon 2.
Is that worth watching just for the
Hmm.
memes? Because I tapped out after the first one.
No,
Like, is it
I
so
don't know how
bad
to
it's
answer
good,
that.
or is it not even worth it?
Like, it's really fucking bad.
You know
So-
what?
Okay, but, like,
I
are we
would argue
talking-
that's better than this. In all
Are we
Yeah,
honesty.
same
Not
here.
much.
Are we talking Boba Fett and Madam Web bad, where it's like fucking
No, because
hilarious?
Madam Web was fun to watch, and I'd
That's what I'm
watch that
saying.
again.
Okay,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
was about to say I would rewatch Madam Web like with friends and beer and shit.
Right. Like Madam Web is
Hilarious.
the Room level. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's the Room of superhero movies.
Madam Web is fantastic. That movie, I'm so happy it exists. It's so fucking stupid.
Yeah.
I think it's probably just it rivals Borderlands. I think for that sheer sense of absolute shouldn't have been made pointlessness. I'd put The Crow and Borderlands very close together. I don't know which one is worse. I didn't have fun with either of them.
That's what I mean. I wouldn't recommend The Crow for any human. Like it was just boring. It wasn't even like fun to like laugh at. I was just cringing in my seat. And like I remember literally getting so sick of the flashbacks of the girl just showing us constantly over and over again. I yelled out, "Get this girl out of my face!" And it was the exact scene where she came out of the water and was resurrected. That's when I turned off the movie. I'm like, I'm done. I'm fucking done. I walked off into the kitchen to make a fucking sandwich. Like I'm
I'm
so
done with this pirated Spanish overdub. Get it out of my face.
Legit. I don't even know this. I want that in BSUP history. I watched that motherfucker in Spanish so I can come here and understand what you guys are talking about. I want that written in stone.
I would have went to the Crow in costume this time. I live here alone. Like I'm bored all the time. So, I really would feel like an asshole if I went by myself. At least when I went to the Matrix, I was like 17 and I had friends. So,
Is that your superhero / supervillain origin story? Is this I was so bored, I put on the cape?
no, I would say it's pretty good. I'd say Spider-Man 3 was my supervillain origin story because I was so hyped for that movie. And then I went to the midnight show, and afterwards, my friends and I stayed up until sunrise talking about how much that movie sucked dick.
Yeah.
So
Spider-Man 3 and the Dark Knight Rises must have really sucked because the Dark Knight and Spider-Man 2 are top tier like,
Right.
superhero movies, And it's just funny how these trilogies just usually fall apart to some degree, I think the best superhero trilogy has got to be Captain America. Like
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first one is solid. It's not amazing, but it's decent. I think
Good
Civil War
origin.
is one of the best movies in the MCU. It's like actual real world politics and a fucking superhero movie is incredible. And most people agree Winter Soldier is one of the best in terms of the action and the tone. So yeah, compare that to Iron Man, who the fuck wants to rewatch Iron Man 2 or 3? Like, come on now.
Sorry, we did that one. Don't need to be rereading. Bonesaw is ready for $5. Weird choice to change Shelly into a strung out eyebrowless prostitute. She's on screen for 30 seconds than the original and still has more dignity. Yeah. Thank you, Sarah. Nandy Zero or Nandy O for $4.99. Third act was unnecessary because the one guy who was close to likable, his sacrifice has no meaning.
Who?
This was sent in at 5:42. We were just talking about.
I think that's the Crow.
Bro,
Who's likable in the Crow? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
That's what I'm trying to figure out too.
Yeah, it can't be the
Was
Crow.
it the guy who told Eric about getting out or something? That guy?
He was just kind of there, though.
Yeah, he was just kind of there. I don't know. Well, and it certainly couldn't have been any of the villains because in the original film, the villains were super fun and all had personalities. And in this, they were just people to be disposed of.
Yeah. Yep.
Melvin Deeply for $2 fake, and that's okay. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is shit. I agree.
True. Is it?
I agree.
I love the meme with fucking Leonardo flipping out over whiskey sours though, because that's my favorite cocktail. So it's just that one.
I love the ending. I love the ending. It's a lot of fun.
It's just a bore fest. It's pretentious and it's a bore fest.
I do not like it when people in Hollywood make movies about Hollywood because they're just sniffing their own farts and like it's just them thinking that everyone's going to find what they do interesting because like they watch their work, so you must feel like my behind the scenes stuff is good too, so I'll turn that into my work. I hate that.
It's a delicate process. It's hard not to be pretentious when you're doing that.
Yeah, not that it hasn't been done well, I just don't think Quentin did. AJ Hawk's Toxic Finger for $5. Hollywood can no longer write heroes because deep down they're mostly horrible people who have no good qualities, i.e. Hedlund, Kennedy, and Taika Waititi.
Lots of fairly horrible people have written pretty good heroes. Josh Whedon, for example.
Yeah, it's complicated, man.
Is it just more just genuine question because I don't really know the behind the scenes process, but is it more that they've leaned away from giving so much creative control to like the writers and the directors and just leaned into here's what's safe, here's what everyone can get on board with, and then here's what we can fund, just put out the content because we need to put something out. Has it shifted more to that behind the scenes?
I think it's producers having a lack of trust in the creatives that they need to be. You need to be on the same page, and you need to be willing to. You need to have creatives that you can trust. So you can take that risk because it is a risk. In the end of the day, you have so many millions of dollars going into this, and the idea now it just feels like we need to go for the safest things: the adaptations, the built-in franchises, the sequels, the remakes. We can't take risks, and that's what drives me nuts because creative risk is where you get the best storytelling, and it's just storytelling as an art form is slowly being turned into content, and just need to push it out, get out whatever we can, and yeah, it's more complicated than that, but that's one of the big aspects of it for me, at least. Like storytelling being pushed into content just destroys it. Like even the reference I made with Robert Downey Jr. talking about Tony Stark and like understanding his character, that shit doesn't get you think they did that for Phase 4? Fuck no. It's
no, absolutely not. Right?
There's just no way. So just the respect for the art form has been completely pushed to the side because content needs to be made. That's pretty much
that's what it feels like too, with the amount that we get just kind of thrown at us on like a daily basis at this point. So
imagine, like, you know, it was like being a YouTuber making a video because the algorithm may potentially eat it up, or something that you're fully passionate and invested in and you don't care if it gets a single view, you know? Imagine never being able to do that. Imagine never having that. Everything you make needs to be strictly for the algorithm, so it's soulless. There's nothing in you in it anymore, and it just becomes fucking trash. So that's my take.
That's a good comparison, actually. I like that. Thank you.
Wolfsbane for $5.
Wait, no one else had an answer? What the fuck? That was just me. I thought this was going to be a whole topic. I just had a little rant there. Okay, go ahead.
I have so many to get through. I can't stop every single one.
I had something. I just want to let him get it.
No, if you have something, please go. Go.
No. We'll talk about it later.
Wolfsbane for $5. No, I wish I could give the time of day to all of these and just break them all down. We just cannot. Alien Romulus had everything to make a great movie except for a terrible script. It's like how the studio completely changed The Thing 2011 last second.
Yeah, they changed it from practical to CGI at the last second or something like that. That's what I heard.
The script
I'm
was
not-
terrible. I just think that the premise for that movie, everything about Alien Romulus is flawed. Like, it's technically well executed in terms of lighting and set design, and that's about it. Everything else about it is balked beyond sense.
Yeah, it was just a pastiche rather than actual film.
And like I was saying, you can't even give credit to the lighting and set design too much because they're copying an aesthetic that was already laid up for them, right? So,
Taker610 for $5. I just discovered Greg's channel and watched his Acolyte review. Very entertaining. Just don't copy Platoon and his nickname like YordVPN. I think nicknames kind of float back and forth. I don't know who called. I don't know who called Saul Squid Game first, but I definitely fucking spam the shit out of it.
That's the one thing I don't really mind. Like, what can you do?
Nickname.
It's
Yeah,
like synchronistic evolution. Like, there are some of them which are so obvious, multiple people are going to come up with them at the same time. YordVPN couldn't, because I sat there in my script and thought, well, that's obviously going to be YordVPN. I'm not going to be the only person who says that's obviously what that nickname is going to be.
And plus, with everyone talking on streams and stuff, like we pass these ideas back and forth. So,
but it can go the reverse. Like, I heard you say green bean so many times that I didn't want to use that in my video. I wanted to think of something else.
My diabetes got 15,000 likes on Twitter. So.
No, that was good.
That's pretty good.
I'm calling Eric Gothwick in my review for The Crow, and you guys are more than welcome to use it.
There you go.
Completely fine with that.
Like, Gary coining Guy Ladriel was one of the greatest things.
That was good. Yeah,
like,
that was really
that's
good.
Perfect. I felt like
Eminem.
Yeah,
Eminem
but Guy Ladriel was so perfect. Just sums it all up.
Natalie Port person from Drinker. I decided that was so good, but I was like, how about Natalie Port woman? That's where I rolled with. Yeah, they all kind of circle.
Sometimes it's so good you want to just leave it alone.
Yeah. Colin Cornwallis for $9.99. Are any of you a little bummed about the fate of the Acolyte? What else will Plutz post a 14-hour saga on?
Rings of Power is coming up. Like, it's what is currently being worked on.
So are you you're really wrapping up that series?
Yeah.
Fuck yes.
I'd only done episodes 1 to 3 until I started taking it back. So I've got episodes.
Do you feel you're compromising at all?
Compromising?
Yes, because of season 2 coming out so soon, and you have to play catch up. Are you compromising on the length of these at all?
No, not really. They're probably averaging about the length of the Acolyte episodes, I think. So the average is about 90 minutes per episode I'm covering.
How the
fuck? The first Rings of Power video I did, I managed somehow to put 2 episodes into 2 hours and 10 minutes, and I don't know how I did that. It's never going to happen again. So there's a compromise in the sense that I could go on for 6 hours about all of these episodes, but I'm not going to do it. But it's still going to be a long old video.
You don't feel nervous about like waiting for the potential of the first 3 episodes? Because you start something now, and in the first 3 that they're dropping, who knows what's going to be in that? I feel like there might be like 5 videos potential just within that alone. So I kind of want to wait. Like, I'm still think. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, no, I mean, like for season 2, I haven't decided because they're dropping 3 in one go. My plan was to do that episodically, much like the Ahsoka thing. But because they're doing 3 in one go, and that is basically half the entire season, I might just do 2 videos of 2 halves for season 2. But I'm still freaking catching up on season 1 at the moment, so I've got a huge amount to do before I even get to that part. I'll burn that bridge when I cross it.
It's a hard choice to make sometimes, like whether you want to make videos for each thing that happens throughout to capitalize on it, or you want to wait to see it as a whole and to see what you can create and put together. So
I mean, there's loads of it. I mean, the thing with season 1 is that there's so many episodes where nothing happens. So actually, like, a lot of the length is taken up by lore stuff, and like the fun thing about it is I get to go through like Tolkien's letters, and I get to go through the history of Middle Earth, so I get to talk about fun Tolkien stuff as an excuse to not talk about the incredibly boring scene when they try and do Game of Thrones dialogue and fail. So like it could be a really quick one, who knows? But it depends, because the trailer's full of war and battle, but I have a sneaky suspicion that's all coming from 1 episode, and the rest of it will be long and tedious. So it depends.
Quick flashback of some battle, and that's just enough to cut into a trailer.
That's how they do it, man. Like they really are masters with these things. Like if you look back and you look at all the trailers we've been fooled by, you know what has a really good trailer? The Last Jedi. Like, it's just you would never fucking know, but they can just fucking pull a lot of strings with that shit. So I'm at a point where I don't judge trailers whatsoever. Just let me start episode 1 and see from there.
Right. Next up's the Heathen Monk for $2. If Platoon makes a plushie with wine, I will buy one. Sarah, I think we all would.
I don't want to delay your things, but I want to ask Platoon this real quick. Were you watching the stream when Keemstar tried to make him drink the piss? Because you were the first person I thought of when that happened. Like, how do you call Platoon sadistic? And then an hour later, we're watching you do this. Like, were you
that was
watching at that point?
later. Oh, I didn't know that was later because Mauler messaged on Discord after, and I assumed he was referring to an old thing that had happened. That happened after?
I'm pretty sure that
Oh, God.
after you left, everything that we talked about just got worse in terms of context, because like everything he said made it look so much worse after him calling you sadistic for like wanting to have consequences for Boogie and him just completely brushing it to the side. We're watching him try to literally coax Boogie into drinking piss. Like it's
Lovely.
it's pretty ridiculous. I was just wondering if you saw that part, because it just like
No, as I say, like I know
It's
nothing about him.
incredible.
It's not my circle of interest. I've never seen a Lolco episode. I've never seen anything Keemstar has ever done. So I didn't see that either. But it sounds like I was completely justified in not watching anything he'd ever done.
No, it wasn't even on that. It was on the same EFAP. That's why I was saying if you were still on or if you were still watching, you
Oh.
would have saw it there.
I might have been out of the room.
Yeah. It's just
It's a
very
shame.
interesting.
Shame I missed this. It sounds like the hottest ticket in town.
It's just pretty ridiculous, but like it was good on you at least. At least you stood up for like your position.
Common people for $5 dumb people on the internet pay other dumb people and make them famous. Like, what am I doing right now?
True.
It's
Love
yeah.
common people.
Based.
Joe Eager for $20. Thank you, sir. For Platoon, who is the hottest guy in film, TV, including foreign cinema?
No. You got the inflection wrong. It's for Platoon, who is the hottest guy in film/TV. including foreign cinema. So that's me. And that's your answer.
All right, there you go. He himself.
Oh, so it's self
He
love
is,
like that
he
Kardashian
is
woman.
him. Beardmaster for a California $5. People could probably relate more to the insect alien in District 9 than most characters in the Acolyte.
Yes, they can.
Yeah,
Christopher Johnson
absolutely.
is the fucking legend. Like,
Yeah.
I love that
Fucking
movie.
prawns, mate.
Fucking prawns. I think it's one of the most underrated sci-fi movies ever. I love District 9.
Yeah.
True Detective for $2. That legit looks like Eric Stoltz in Mask. That must be referring to the Star Wars video game there.
Oh, yeah. It does.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you for the super chat. Why do I always mispronounce your fucking name? I swear to God, I'm gonna write it down so I can just enunciate correctly for once. Genmai for a California $10. Like my brain just won't process it correctly. AAA gaming is dead, at least from NA and EU studios. I play mostly indie and Nintendo games now. Just play Xenoblade Chronicles 3 or Bayonetta 3. It's close enough to AAA, and they look great on Switch. That they do. Yes, they do. Bayonetta in particular looks fucking awesome. Thank you for the super chat.
What was the Chinese game that's doing massive numbers at the moment? Is it true they basically said no, like
Wukong.
Western feminist
Black
journalists
Myth
are allowed to
Wukong.
review it?
What was the question, Platoon?
IGN had a female reviewer that took points off because of the rumors of sexism at the studio, at the Chinese studio, and also because the game about an ancient Chinese myth of a monkey lacked diversity.
Yep. This is what I'm saying. They've lost the plot, man.
Well,
It's
she
fucking
said
insane.
she hadn't actually played that far into the game because she said there was no female characters, and there's actually quite a few. And a lot of her criticisms about the creators of the game being sexist were proved to have been mistranslated because there was a Chinese content creator on YouTube. I think I've got the link somewhere where she actually went through a lot of the things that they'd said, and they were just common idioms that were mistranslated. So the whole basis of that article was false.
I think it was also off like a WeChat too, where those allegations came from. So there was nothing even substantial to back it up. but they reported it as real news back in like February.
But she took points off of a video game review for rumors surrounding the video game. It's stunning.
Yes, not related.
Using diversity as a standard of quality is just fucking frustrating. We're talking about a goddamn monkey game. Like, let the man swing his staff. It's just stupid. Like, I'm much more concerned with the mechanics and everything else that's involved with it instead of trying to add all this shit on top of it. Like, it's insufferable. It really is.
She really wanted the game to fail and had to remove her Twitter after the game sold 10 million copies and has like 2.3 million concurrent players.
I'm not playing it, but it's one of those situations where you want to support it just because you hear all the fucking nonsense surrounding it. You know what I mean?
It's good if you like action, like third-person action adventure. It's not quite as like a Souls-like. It's not on that. I thought it was, but it's really not. It's more of like a God of War Souls light, but it's fun. I'm almost done with chapter 1. It's a very fun game. I'm enjoying it.
If she wants diversity, can't she just play that other game where the samurai is African based off the fact there was one guy who's African?
I'll be better. She played the brand new game called Dustborn, where the main character uses words as a weapon and accuses people of racism to defeat them in conversation. And that is not a joke. Nothing about what I said is exaggerated.
It's brilliant.
It actually is. It's a joke in the second is South Park, The Fractured But Whole. Microaggressions are an actual gameplay mechanic in that. They turned a joke into an actual thing. Well done.
And they're surprised why it's failing. I think it has, at its peak, 700 people downloaded the game. And
no, you're thinking of Concord. This is called Dustborn, and this never broke triple digits. At its peak, it had 70 players. 70.
Oh my goodness.
That is it.
Wow.
It's bad. It's real bad.
It's the whole thing where the meme that we come up with as a joke 6 months later becomes the reality in the culture.
It's shocking. There's like a rhythm thing, and they sing a song about oppression. Like, you have to look it up, because like I'm not doing justice to how it sounds like I'm making it up, and I'm actually not going far enough. It's insane. It's like a parody.
Yeah, Greg is 100% being truthful right now. He's not even blowing it up. Like, that's legit what the game is. You can find clips of it.
I think Genmai Cha said that he's triggered, and you made me learn about docking like a month ago. So,
face docking.
No,
I don't want to go over it.
The other one.
Different thing altogether.
That's more shocking than Mr. Brown.
I like that name.
Wolfsbane for $1.99, but we already have a Japanese Ironheart movie, though.
What is it?
I don't know.
I think
I think somewhere in the chat someone said it's a porn.
Yeah, I was gonna say a porn parody is what I think.
Oh wow,
yeah,
it is too.
Iron Box.
Iron Box.
Oh,
that's probably what it's called. I don't know.
Yeah. Princess Fiona, member for 11 months, says her name is Lily, but Master Saul pronounces it Riri.
Oh, Master Soul.
That's racist.
I get sad anytime anyone
That's racist. Definitely not a gator for $5. Sorry, Jedi, you are wrong. In the comics, Riri begs her supportive teacher to tell her that girls that look like you can't do anything.
I never said anything about the comics. What do you mean to be? Let's talk about the movie.
Suspiciously sounds like that person is a gator, though.
Maybe he's picking on you because you're black, man. Maybe the racism is in the chat now.
Girls like you, like
right.
There are 2 more super chats. So I'm going to bring this one up first. M8566 for $10. Thank you. One of my favorite things about District 9 is how the momentum and intensity just continues to ramp up. It's impressive that they were able to do that without exhausting the audience.
Glorious pacing.
Totally agree.
Glorious pacing.
Yep. Completely.
There was
agree.
a strange little pocket where like South African guys were kind of hip for a little bit. Like 2 years later, there was that film Elysium with a big bad guy. It's like for some weird reason it's got a South African accent as well.
Oh yeah,
very strange.
Well, it's the same actor, isn't it? Vickers
Probably
from District 9 is in Elysium as the main bad guy.
There are a lot of secrets in District 9.
Great South African accent.
Fleshing out the world building like instantly in those first like 15 minutes is just so fantastic. And like that's one of the best examples of how to speed run your world building, but still have it be impactful and like effective.
It's the idea that the aliens aren't remarkable at all. They're just kind of squatting, annoying assholes.
They're
What a
just
great
these
concept.
prawns that you would think they'd be these elite things, these predators, this, and that. But we get like
Yeah.
the lowest of the low. We get the workers, the blue collar
Yeah.
aliens. That's why I think it's personally it's my favorite alien movie. I adore that movie. I really, really do.
There is one final super chat I'm going to pull up here, and it is from the prom plan for $100 fucking dollars.
Cheers to that guy.
Cheers. Amazing. The last sip of my decaf coffee here.
Why are you here? Leave. You're not welcome anymore. Decaf coffee.
I
Jesus.
have to, dude. I have to get fucking sleep. I get like 3 hours of sleep a night.
Why are
I
you
can't
drinking
do it
coffee
anymore.
then? You freak.
It's decaf.
Yeah, what's the point? That's like
Because I require the taste.
What you want to talk to your doctor about clonidine? That is great, and will put you the fuck out.
No, because my problem is those things put me to sleep, but I cannot stay asleep. So if that happens, I'll just wake up really groggy and tired and feel like shit the rest of the day. So I just can't take trazodone, can't do any of that fun stuff. So
what about like a massive bong hit? Will that do you in?
I just stopped smoking weed a couple of weeks ago.
Oh,
I'm
you're
trying to be a healthy boy now.
Yay!
Yes,
Congrats.
yes,
Good luck getting
yes.
to
I
sleep.
stopped smoking weed, everyone, so you won't see me like this on stream anymore. Cheers to y'all. I hardly ever get to watch when you go live. Thanks for being entertaining and educational. Anyone who wants to be a better writer should watch anyone on this panel. I love how you make sure to bring up examples of good writing to contrast the bad. And,
Very kind.
Very kind. Thank you. That's an incredible donation. I appreciate you. $30 of that will go right to YouTube.
Way to be cynical. Come on.
Guys, in the name, baby.
Throw my phone.
No, but thank you so much. That is incredible of you. Damn it, we need high Cynic. I hope not. Cynic not straight anymore. Oh, yeah. You hang out with Low Platoon long enough. Yeah.
It's true.
Ooh.
It's the way,
Oh
the way
my.
it goes, guys.
Because you saw
no,
you saw that Deadpool movie. It did it to us all.
Yeah, I know.
Ryan does that.
Didn't even blink an eye when all those jokes were flying across the screen. Vex, I know you got to go because you got another stream. I appreciate you being on here. Do you want to shout out where you're going to be or what you're up to next first?
I'm gonna hop straight over to Midnight's Edge for the Toxic Femininity stream for a bit. But yes, thank you for having me on. It's always a pleasure. It's also good to be on a stream with Echo and Greg again.
Hey,
And you
yeah.
know,
We miss you.
Good to see you.
Cynic is there as well. That is what it is.
Yeah, well, you know.
But yeah, it's great seeing you all. Have a great rest of the week. Chat, you're also awesome. Take care, everyone.
Take care, Vex.
See you, Vex.
Yeah. I want to thank all my guests. I know we all good 3-hour stream. I appreciate you all. We'll just go around clockwise, starting with you, Greg. Thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate your first appearance here. You want to give everyone a shout where you're going to be or what you're up to?
Yeah, I appreciate the invite. I'm very honored, very flattered. Thank you. This Thursday, I'm doing my own private stream because I hit 60,000 a few weeks ago, and I'm going to do a little Q&A.
Well done.
Congrats, man.
Thank the subs and get to know some people. So that's where I'll be this week.
Oh, yeah. No, thanks for coming on, man. Really appreciate you. And Echo, thanks for coming back. Appreciate you too. What are you up to next?
Well, I just put out a new video on the Acolyte, which I think will be my 7th or 8th involved with the Acolyte for some reason. I just can't get
Hell yeah.
more out of it.
Damn.
It's like I'm starting to recycle and repurpose footage from all my other videos just because I'm lazy on the Acolyte because it's just for convenience sake.
Yeah.
Too much.
Yeah. I don't really have. I don't know what there's always, of course, the Echo Chamber, the live stream, which is coming up on the 3rd, I think. And it's going to be really cool because we're going to get the editor of that Park Place, which is an online website which does a kind of like it's kind of like if you had Variety or those kind of things, except it's more sort of centered or got a kind of libertarian lean to it. So I just want to really talk to the guy about that because it's an interesting space. So that's coming up. Otherwise, just making the usual vids.
Yes, sir. Echo Chamberlain's live stream is really good. It looks strikingly similar to this one right now.
It does, yeah.
Jedi Brooks, thank you so much, sir, for coming on.
problem.
Always appreciate your contributions. What are you up to next?
I took a slightly different approach with the Acolyte. So, because I know like there's so many things you can break down in that entire season. You could have made a video on like every episode practically, but I waited to the end, and like I said, the thing they did with Soul just truly infuriated me. It's one of the few things I've reviewed that I can confidently say I hate. And I think I made a really good video breaking down everything wrong with Soul and how they completely ruined that character and how he did nothing wrong. It's just fucking terrible.
Yep.
I've also have a video on House of the Dragon I just dropped, and yes, just got past the appeal, so it's gonna stay on YouTube.
Hell
You can
yes.
check it out.
Yeah.
Fire it up.
Just breaking down like the three biggest issues I think that held the season back. Well, from the perspective of someone who enjoyed the season, and the best defense I can do of Damon and Harrenhal, and like really trying to explain that. So if you're interested in that in the debate for the quality of that season, that'd be a good video to watch. And I would recommend my Ironheart video since we've brought that topic up for anyone who wants to really break down who Riri Williams is and have him compared directly to Tony in terms of the quality of writing. So yeah, that would be the three I just definitely mentioned. So and I have a big ass MCU video coming out soon because I finally figured out the copyright shit. So Platoon, try that thing I told you about. I want to know if anyone else has figured that out, and if they have, if it actually works, because that might be a game changer for long form content.
Yeah.
Because I've been at this for like 2 months. I tried this one trick and like, boom, done. So we'll see.
Sounds good. And FCE, thank you so much for coming on, man. I appreciate you too, and I'm going to be seeing you tomorrow. So I know where you'll be, but if you'd like to give a shout out to the chat of where we'll be and what
Absolutely.
And won't I also be?
Yeah, you will. You will. It's such a pleasure to be here. This is one of my favorite podcasts, so it's an honor to finally join the panel. So I'm working on a video covering The Crow, which will be out at the end of the week. I've got my FCE Live podcast tomorrow. And right after that, I'm going to be joining Diabolical Souls Presents, breaking down episodes 3 and 4 of Invincible. Yeah.
Excellent.
I'm gonna follow you around to make sure you're not doing a Commander Shepard. Like, this is my favorite store on the Citadel. This is my favorite podcast to be on. Everyone you go to, it's the same answer.
I'll be on FCE's show tomorrow. And I'm gonna release a review of The Crow, and Rings of Power is coming out, so I guess I'll be hopping on that fun train. That's what I'm up to next, and BSUP next week, of course.
Rings of Power.
Yay.
I just decided I'm going to make a video about why we don't need to recontextualize bad guys as misunderstood, that kind of thing. But I don't know how I'm going to pitch it. But that's what I'm going to do.
Start with Scar, please, and look into Corella.
Corella's a really good example. Yeah,
those are two ones where you can just like you're gonna have so much to work with.
You're gonna have a tough time deciding what to keep. There's so much material you could go over there.
Yeah.
In Platoon, what are you doing?
What am I doing? I am jumping off after this to do some non-YouTube scripty stuff. Then I shall be back scripting Rings of Power stuff. I think I'm on FNT on Friday talking about Rings of Power. I will be on EFAP several times over the next couple of months talking about Rings of Power. And I'll be putting several videos out also about Rings of Power. So Rings of Power is roughly what I'm doing for the next too long of my life.
That is a lot.
Yeah, sounds about right. Yeah. And of course, one more super chat came in from Taker610 for $2. Platoon, help Mahler become a legit VTuber.
He knows where to find me if he wants to. I like his avatar. I like the idea though of his avatar because like you could do fun things with it. My VTuber thing is really limited in terms of functionality because I've not really put like it does have things it can do to move, but I've forgotten what buttons I've assigned them to, so it doesn't do them. But there are loads of things you can do with it.
You still haven't figured that out?
I did, and I had it all written down, but now the buttons don't seem to work, so I don't know. I'll need to go back in and figure them out.
Well, I've long had a long-standing desire, which I think you know, that I wish your avatar could dab his cigarette. Just lean forward down and dab a cigarette.
I might add that. That can be next year's upgrade. You can actually smoke.
Well, that wraps up BSUP for this week. Next week is big episode 40, cruising towards the big 50.
Oh shit, what number are we? Oh, it is, yeah.
40th episode. I didn't think we'd get to that number considering we skip every 3
You're
weeks.
fucking mental. And I'll see you in 2 months, bro. Like, Jesus
No, this is the plan. Like, I'm gonna be not home next week, and I'm still doing BSUP. I will not miss fucking
Commitment.
episodes anymore.
Ah,
No, I'm done. So I'm done missing episodes. Not done with BSUP. So we will see you then. We'll see you next week. And thank you everyone who stuck around. Thank you everyone who sent in super chats. You guys are fucking incredible. We love you, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Boy.